Welcome to Two Girls, One Garbage Can, the Ozpol podcast, where we discuss the garbage can state of Australian politics and the political landscape through a historical lens to try and make sense of the shit fuckery that we are dealing with in our current day and age. I am Tamara.
And my name is Maddie, and today we are going to be talking about the Australian electoral system, how our
Eventually.
politics and policies work, but that is for later. For now, we're going to talk some shit for a bit, as is tradition.
Tradition
Just
on the
for
garbage.
you guys that come and watch our live streams, you guys get to see
Yeah.
approximately 30 to 40 minutes worth of us nattering absolute crap before we actually get started with the episode.
Yeah, and like all
Today
the
it might
Kofi,
be...
obviously the Kofi
Yeah,
guys, you get access to these for later, and it's all. Well, this is we were talking beforehand, and I was like, we might as well go live and talk about it on live because this is what we
yeah,
do on live.
exactly. We kind of spill our shit for a bit.
We do. We talk shit and we talk. Yeah. So, what were we talking about before we went live? I forgot between here and the couch.
We were talking about the things that have happened in your world in the last 48 hours.
No, sorry, it wasn't in the last 48 hours, but it was over sort of 48 hours last week.
Ah,
That my information changed. We got sort of new information about things, and yeah. So Thursday last week, I spoke to the doctor.
mm-hmm.
Hey, Lily, welcome, welcome. Thursday
Hello,
last week, I
Lily.
spoke to the doctor who basically told me chemo was inescapable, that the cancer I have is extremely aggressive, despite all of the signs that were leading us to believe that it was going to be, not too bad. Things like the size of the tumor being quite small, things like that. There were a few really worrying signs. One of them being that the tumor is multifocal already. It's such a small size. It's already, got multiple little heads coming off of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, and that points to a more aggressive form of cancer, one that is HER2 positive.
mm-hmm.
So I also had some other scans and stuff done last week, one of which was the lung and liver scan, which is to see if there's any signs of it in any other places yet in your body, and that changes obviously treatment course and prognosis and things. Now, once they sort of find it elsewhere outside the breast tissue, they kind of go, oh, we're no longer talking about early cancer at that point. Early cancer is like a medical term that means it hasn't metastasized, it hasn't spread
Yeah,
throughout
it's remained in situ.
Yeah, but unfortunately that's depending on, and this is the problem as well, a lot of people will think that, oh, these things follow a normal path based on, things that we've seen before. But some things about mine that were very worrying from the get-go. And I think this is why I think cancer is very much like politics in this way, where you see the beginnings of fascism spring up and you go, oh, but last time fascism happened, it wasn't that bad. Like, we had more time. We had, there was more of a build up to it. And it was like, yeah, but not all fascism is the same or acts the same. So
Yep.
despite my tumour being less than 2 centimetres, which is 18 mils in size, which is considered very small, that would be a sign of stage 1 or stage 2 cancer, it already had blood supply, already had spinification, already had tendon stuff coming out of it, already had multifocal, already had a second head, all these sort of signs that it was like, oh, that's not such a good thing. But anyway,
Yep.
but as soon as there's signs of it being picked up in other extremities, it completely changes the sort of course of treatment and prognosis, all those kinds of
Yeah.
things. So,
Yeah, of course.
yeah. So, unfortunately, we've got it now and we've just got to deal with the reality of that, much like Trump, much like... Now, we do have the benefit here in Australia of having all of this information ahead of time, though, and being able to do something about it to prevent our own cancerous infestation of fascism.
Oh, God. Okay, look. I'm going to just for a moment, I know you've had a half a week to process this information, okay? But the fact that you're able not only to joke about it, but to reference it back to the topic of the podcast You're a fucking unit, mate.
Fuck yeah, I am.
love you, buddy. I really do. I don't tell you it enough. I fucking love you. Yeah, fucking amazing.
Well, the first thing I did, I talked to my
Jesus
therapist
Christ.
about it, and I said, "This is what we were talking about beforehand." And I was like, "We got to go live because I have to discuss this on live."
Yeah.
The first thing I was chatting to my friend about, because her and I knew each other from the cult days,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and she said to me, "For fuck's sake, honest to God, no one would believe it if you were writing a book." Every motherfucker out there would be like, "You're lying for clout. You're just trying to sell copies of your
Bullshit.
book." Bull
Yeah.
fucking shit. You were in a cult. Your husband cheated on you how many times? You were homeless. You then went from being homeless to buying your own home, only to then discover you had breast cancer. Sure. Go fuck off. When did... No one's life is that fucking tragic.
For me, I have the opposite thing. It's not necessarily the tragedy. There's plenty of that. But it's also the butt-fuck insanity that my life has been. Like,
Yeah.
I've been through my history with my partner, and my partner just looks at me and like, who wrote the script for your life, bro? They were on some
They
gear.
were on one. They were on one. Well, that is yeah, and that's the problem, I think. Like, I did start like, so it's very, because I got my diagnosis on inauguration day.
Yeah.
I had
Oh,
originally
fuck.
I'd originally been planning to live stream on election day. And I was having this thought. I was sitting there in the waiting room and I was having this thought, and I pulled out my journal because I was just like, I have to write this down. Like, this is just so fucking hilarious. I was like, you think that a warning sign, you think that the alarm system. So there's this principle that exists, which is the normalization, the normalcy response, which is basically when people's brains tell them that everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine, right up until, oh, it's not fine. And then it's like, oh shit. And this happens to about 70% of the population.
Yep.
So 30%
Yep.
of us feel like we're losing our minds screaming that the sky is falling. We're like fucking Chicken Little. And 70% are sitting over there going, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's
What are
fine,
you talking
even
about?
while they're watching the sky fall around them. And it's only when the sky falls on their head that they then go, oh, quick, I've got to act. And it's usually too late. And people go, how did you not see this coming earlier? And it's like, because we're constantly trying to tell ourselves that everything's fine and everything's normal. And I noticed the same thing happening with as I was going through this process of diagnosis. I kept telling myself that everything was fine and everything was normal. Even throughout all these appointments, everyone kept telling me that I was being really calm, cool, and collected. And I was sitting there in that doctor's office having this awareness of how everyone kept saying everything was fine and normal and things weren't that bad in the Democratic Party. And everyone kept harping on about how everything was fine. And now Trump was getting inaugurated. And I had kept trying to convince myself everything was fine after my GP left 2 voicemails demanding I call her back as a result of my test results. And I'm sitting there in the doctor's office going, everything's fine.
Yeah, it's
And that's why I started writing, because I was just like, this is just the correlations between cancer and fascism.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But it's a hell of a coping mechanism you got there.
How is Trump like breast cancer?
Nobody fucking wants him, and he should be cut out and bombarded with radiation.
Hola, hola, Ed. Yeah, we've been discussing the not so great news.
Yeah.
They're not so great news. It's all going downhill quickly. I'm starting chemo this week.
Things have gone a bit pear-shaped, Ed.
Pear-shaped.
I wasn't making a reference to the shape of your yiddies. I don't know what shape they are. I haven't seen them.
Pear-shaped.
Oh, a
Pear-shaped.
pear. A pear. Right, yep. I'm getting you. I thought you were thinking that I was making a shape reference. You know, smaller at the top, heavier at the bottom.
That's the normal, like, sort of progress for them. But yeah, there are a pair of them. The pair are going. But the paired surgery has been delayed because I have to do chemo first. So originally the plan was to remove the tumours first and then get in with
Radio.
adjunctive therapy afterwards, which, was looking like it was going to have to possibly be radiation, possibly be chemo. I was hoping for radiation. And then, we got some other results back and it was like, oh, shit, we're going to start with chemo and see if it responds to that because,
Yep.
There is also, and I'm not trying, I don't want to be alarmist or it's one of those thoughts that you kind of have to start accepting that it could be, one of the things the doctor said to me is that it's everyone's cancer treatment path looks different.
Of course.
And saying that you're on palliative care doesn't mean that, you've got months or anything like that. It could be that we know we're never going to cure this thing. It's going to be with you throughout your entire life, and this is what life's going to look like for you from now on. And we've got to figure out, some people do want to do that. They do want to go through chemo and have an extra 20, 30 years of their life, and some people don't. They're like, fuck that shit. I'd rather have 10 years of radiation, not deal with chemo, and then that'll be the end of it. Or some people go, I don't want to do any treatment and I'm just going to spend all my money on a big holiday and then fuck off the planet. So it's not that, it's not like it's that's the end of our discussion, but it is a matter of bearing in mind that it could be a matter of we're not looking at curative, we are just looking at continuing life care because there may be a chance that it's too far advanced to cure if it doesn't react well to the chemo. So, I am also likely going to have immunotherapy. I have to have immunotherapy, which is going to mean no trips and no visitors. I'm on lockdown. I don't get to leave my house.
Yep. Yeah, because you will be as immunocompromised as it gets.
Yeah. The air will be trying to kill me. She even said to me, she's like, what are some things that you do to calm and relax yourself and da-da-da? And I was like, giving her my list. And she's like, oh, yeah, great. And I was like, gardening. And she's like, no, we need to stop that. I was like, what? She's like, you cannot do anything that has dirt involved. I was like, what? She's like, yeah. All of your activities were like, I like sewing. I like calligraphy. And then you're like, I like dirt. And I went, nope. No, you don't like dirt. Okay. And I was like, I could turn my camera around right now. In right here in this space where I'm sitting, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plants right here in this little tiny space I'm sitting. And she's like, get rid of them all out of your house right now. I was like, what? And then I'm like looking over at my window there and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there, still in the same room. So I've got 12 plants. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 plants in this room where I'm sitting. And she's like, they all need to go outside. I was like, oh. And she's like, and you don't get to go outside anymore. I was like, oh.
And has she mentioned the pets as well? They need to be treated and become inside animals.
Permanent inside pets if I want to keep them.
And
they're not enjoying it.
Also need to be treated as well for any potential things like ticks or mites or fleas or what have you.
Yeah, we've already done the treatments and stuff on them, and they are hating life. They are absolutely hating life. Yeah, not enjoying it at all. Ninja was literally climbing up the window before, face pressed against the screen. Give me some fresh air. I know, buddy, me too. Fucking sucks being a permanent indoor creature.
Also, make somebody else clean out the litter tray.
Oh, yeah, no, we have a cat run so that they are able to get outside to do their business. And the cat run is contained to a small area, which we've sprayed. We have, the cats aren't in there at the moment. We've got an indoor litter box at the moment. So we are looking at a long-term thing so there won't be any litter trays inside at all. Cool. But yeah, the litter box is the kids' job. That's their cats.
Good.
It's their cats, but...
Fuck,
yeah,
dude. I'm
Yep, but all my plants, And I said to her, well, obviously I'll have to get rid of the ones out of my bedroom and stuff. So I was like, okay, that's fine. And yeah, she said to me, oh, did you have any allergies and everything? I was like, oh, yeah, like dust and pollen and... And she's like, oh, and I said, and the thing I love about my house is how well ventilated it is, all windows and that open with all the air and stuff coming in. She's like, we'll come and have a chat about ventilation versus introducing pathogens. And I was like, okay,
Yep.
no worries. So like the rear of the house faces like is out the back deck. It's fine out there. Like, you know, I mean, we've got the chickens and stuff out there, so I can't go off the deck. Like I got to be careful and stuff. But yeah, we've got the social workers going to come out and help us set up. Because the other thing is I'm toxic to my family, so I have to clean the bathroom after every time I use it. I have to flush 3 times.
Yep.
Zab, it's basically any biomatter whatsoever can introduce any kind of anything, any kind of pathogen, any sort of biological matter whatsoever can introduce things that are perfectly normal for everybody else, but if you're immunocompromised, will result in you getting like a lung infection or, and as someone who's already asthmatic and allergic to like airborne pollen and dust, anything like that, that's particularly where I'm at risk is so basically all of the secretions of all of the animals and all of the plants and all of life.
Yep.
Yeah. I also, I'm not allowed to smoke again anymore after today.
So this is your final tour run, huh?
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for I've got a call, kind of like we're waiting on this call for this fucking election. Waiting on this call for this fucking, waiting on this call to find out the results of this fucking, last hormone thing.
Yep.
Because that is going to determine whether we do the menopause first, whether I go through menopause first.
Yeah, right.
Then jump straight. Yeah, so
to kill the estrogen off.
Yes, yeah. So that it there were a couple of other scans that I had to get done if it was HER2 positive, which my doctor already ordered because he was like, the cancer's quite aggressive, and because of that, we're acting as though it is HER2 positive because it probably is based on its
based on how it's
presentation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's what we're doing.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
so I got a bone scan on Wednesday to make sure it's not in my bones. Or to see if it's in my bones, I should say, at this point.
Yeah.
I was laughing so much because I've been whinging and complaining about my upper back. There's this spot in, where your bra sits that I'm just like, it has been hurting me so bad. I just can't seem to get it back in place. My back is aching me. I've had the kids walking on it. And I said, how fucking hilarious would it be if I've been yelling at my kids being like, dig your heels in. And they're like, Mum, we're literally trying to fight cancer with our feet. It's not going to work. I don't think that it is. I think that that's just normal back pain. When the doctor even said it to me, he's like, have you noticed any back pain? I was like, because I've got a rib out of place as well. And I said, dude, I'm 37. I've got 2 kids. Of course I have back pain. What kind of question is that? I don't even know why you would ask me. I don't know. What was the point of that? I also have hip pain.
Life is back pain.
Exactly. I'm like, I also have hip pain. Do you think my breast cancer has already moved to my hip? Like, no.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, when my father was on oncology, no flowers are allowed. Yeah, yep. And the first thing everyone does is bring you a big bunch of flowers. It's so lovely because I had a friend come over and bring some treats and a big bunch of flowers. And I kept the flowers because I was like, I'll have to get rid of them before I go into chemo next week. But I'll have them for the 6 days before I actually start treatment. So
Yeah.
wasn't quite at that point. Didn't really know how bad it was at that point either. I was still hoping that I wasn't going to have chemo. Ooh, found out 2 hours later that was not an option. Not an option. Yeah.
So when do you start? Do you know?
Well, I go
Or are you
in.
still
I go
waiting on the call?
in. No, well, I go in tomorrow. Basically, the call is basically just to find out if there's another treatment I'll start first instead, as well as, I should say. And I'm going in tomorrow to do the rundown and get all the prescriptions sorted and all that business and all of the... because there's a whole heap of additional medications that they give you to help with the side effects of chemo. So first, I got to go in tomorrow and we run through all those medications and all the side effects and how to use them. So that's what tomorrow's appointment will be. And then Thursday, I'll go into the oncology ward and start treatment. So I've got, and the good thing is though, with the cycle being the way that it is it means that I'll start like Thursday, Friday, Saturday will be the first 3 courses of treatment. Then I'll have one on a Sunday, will be the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll have a break. So I won't ever have to do treatment on Monday. Because it's on an 8-day cycle.
Bro, you are not thinking about next Monday right now.
No. As in the 4 weeks of treatment. So you do a full week. So basically you have the treatment on day 1. Then you have a recovery day where you feel like shit. Then you have like the cancer, the chemo's basically in your body. They inject it, and then it starts going down, and it gets to a plateau. And then they inject it again, and it starts going down, and it gets to a plateau. They inject it again, so that you're constantly being chemofied.
Up, down, yeah.
So, so on day 1 they inject it, and then 7 days you get to your lowest point, and day 8 they inject you again, and then so you only have to go in for 1 day every 8 days for 4 weeks to have your course of treatment. So, but but I've got to go through all of the all the other bits and pieces.
Shit.
Yeah, and she did say to me as well. She said, "Look," because I said to her, the most thing I'm obviously the most worried about is nausea, because I got to. Yeah. I threw up when Donald Trump got elected. Everyone watched me slowly go green on live and then go, sorry, excuse me a moment. I get very queasy very easily. So I was quite concerned about that. And the nurse, which, by the way, breast care nurses are the greatest thing ever invented, did say to me that while nausea is probably a constant companion throughout chemotherapy, luckily, vomiting is very, very rare as a side effect, and it just tends to be the constant nausea that drives people crazy.
Yeah. They do have very strong antiemetic medication now as well that's very effective. My partner has to take it because they have gastroparesis.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, very, very strong antiemetics that they're on that stop them from constantly feeling the need to go herc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say eat your favourite food beforehand, why is that, Zach? Try you on a rose detector, you'll be radioactive. Yes. So, this is one of the things. So one of the difficult parts is obviously talking to your kids. And obviously, like, people constantly talk about... And can I just say... Because you don't want to talk to your kids about trans issues is the stupidest fucking reason to not talk to your kids about anything in the history forever. If I can talk to my kids about chemo without having them lose their fucking minds, you can talk to your kids about trans issues. Go and get fucked. Like, go fuck off. Fuck off with your bullshit. Absolutely. So, again, another way that cats is just like politics. So I was talking to my kids about it and talking about surgery, obviously, and, they know I have to have them all cut off and all that sort of stuff. And my daughter has been a little bit anxious about a few different things. But we were talking about the fact that we're trying to get them used to the idea that they can't come and climb into mum's bed with me. They can't just come and climb up onto my lap whenever, because they walk into the room ass backwards to climb up on my lap. And it's literally, they are always sitting on me. Yeah.
That sounds exactly like my cats.
Yeah. They basically are just giant cats, my children.
Yeah.
So they're just as temperamental too. So... we're trying to get them used to the fact that, they can't just come and do that. And we've been playing the Dragons, Imagine Dragons, radioactive.
Oh,
radioactive.
yeah. Oh, my God.
So whenever they come in the house, I play that on the radio just to remind them, like, Mum's radioactive.
Nice. Very good. Very good. That's clever.
Yeah.
That's actually clever. Like, turn it into a fucking musical key.
Yeah. And a bit of a dance bop too, because if they walk in, they start jiving. They're like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
Whoa! Yeah. You have to play this version of the song, okay? Rad's detector might actually help them understand. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm just going to my channel now to sort some things out.
Oh, is he on your channel, is he? That
I
bot?
believe so. Maybe not,
Nah.
actually.
I was going to say, I don't think so. I think he's on mine.
Yeah, I think it was.
Which means I think someone's already taken care of it.
Yeah, in all likeliness.
Because there's a competition. You had it primed, ready to go. Ed
Good on you,
Bandom,
Ed.
there you go. Thanks, Ed.
your work, buddy.
Legend. Legend. So, yeah. So, I will say right now, though, one thing. So I was having a chat to like the breast care nurse about all the different things that people kind of go through, and you just have the big general discussion, and we're sort of talking about a lot of people start thinking about, they start having all these big feelings about things they wish they'd done and regrets that they have. And I said, the only thing I keep thinking is I'm deserting my kids. Like, what happens if I leave them? That's the only. And I was just saying to her, that ever since I left the cult, which was only 10 years ago, I've had this perspective where I'm not going to let anyone tell me I can't do something that I want to do. And so I've just gone and made it, like done whatever it is I wanted to do, right up until I kind of got to the point when I bought this house where I was like, what's my next goal going to be? I'm kind of a bit like, okay, what do I do now? Oh, start a commune. That's a good, that's my next step. I said, so like even now, like my dream is to have a commune, and I started doing it before I found out I had a cancer diagnosis. I've never been the kind of person who's like waited for the death knell to start living my life or anything.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a bucket list, so to speak, anything like that. It's mainly the sort of financial stuff that I worry about, because I'm the person who's always taking care of that. I'm like, okay, I want to make sure the kids are set up. I want to make sure that the house is going to be paid for. I want to make sure that, the insurance gets paid out to the right people so that the kids are set up but not left. Like, I want to make sure my family don't get their hands on any of the kids' money, like that kind of stuff that I'm worried about. So she's like, oh, good, we literally have services to help you with all of that. So that's fine. It's the emotional stuff that we're more kind of like a lot of people will decide to sell up their house and go traveling. And she's like, calm down for a second. Like, let's just talk this through for a second first. But that's what I said to her. I said, like, from the get-go, my kids are at that age where it doesn't matter what I fucking want. Like, it really doesn't fucking matter what I want. I got kids. Like, I already made the decision 8 years ago what my priorities were going to be at this point in my life, and it was the children. So it doesn't change, hasn't changed anything.
Yeah, of course.
So what we decided to do, because there's some things that we've had to change about our living situation that obviously they haven't been big fans of. So what we've done is hello, Amy.
Hey, Amy.
Where we're bribing them with a trip to South America. So we've told the kids, so while mum's doing chemo and stuff and they're sitting there like they're, annoyed because they have to, anyway, they've signed up for their, they've got their little language learning app that I signed up for. Yep. And I've only got the free version at the moment, but I said if they keep up with it, I did used to pay for the premium version, and they stopped doing it. So I was like, I'm not paying for it again until you actually keep up with it. But anyway. Yep. They've got the language lessons that they're doing, and we've got to go on this. We're going on a walk every day just to try and help get my appetite going so that I can try and eat something for dinner. So all these little things about our lives that we've sort of changed, like just the layout, the setup of bedrooms and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, but all of it is to make sure that in 5 years we can go to South America, but you're only allowed to come. Like, mum's going no matter what. If I'm still here, I'm going no matter what. End of discussion.
Yeah.
Dad's only allowed to come if the kids come. Otherwise, it's me and my girlfriend are going. She's already said, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm coming anyway. Like, at some point, we'll ditch the kids and Adam and we'll go to Carnival and get fucked off our faces on coke. And I was like, yep, deal. But the kids are only allowed to come if they learn Spanish and they keep up with mum's fitness and exercise routine so they can keep up with us when we're climbing and hiking. Because I am... The biggest struggle I think is going to be me is going to be not as active as I am currently, because, I didn't like driving, and so I started riding my bike everywhere with the kids on the back of it. And it's just, my life's always been quite active. It's never, the idea of doing something active has never stopped me. Like, I used to walk to and from work, even though it was an hour walk, because I hated driving in Melbourne. Yeah, and there weren't any trams that went that way because I was working at Maribyrnong and I was living in Parkwood. So there
Oh,
was a
Christ.
Parkville, sorry. So there was no tram or train that went that way. I had to go into the city and then back out again. It would have taken an hour on public transport.
Oh, yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like, I've never been the kind of person that physical activity has stopped me from doing something. I've always been a very active person. And the kids are as well, but I said to them, it's very different hiking up somewhere like Machu Picchu is going to be very different to going on a bike ride with mum and dad. And you complain if we go walk around the block. So
Yeah.
if you want to come, you have to get fit without complaining. Like, I don't want to hear any complaints when we go on our walks. And yeah, you've got to learn your Spanish. So that's what they're doing now. And
They're
every
the two
time,
requirements.
yeah. So every time I'm in treatment or anything, or they're annoyed because they can't come and see me or whatever, it's like, well, go do your Spanish. This is,
Yeah.
Mum has to do this to go to South America. You've got to do that to go to South America. This is my
Yeah.
challenge. That's yours. Fuck off.
Learn
So-
your Spanish, go for a hike.
yeah, exactly. So it's kind of been a good way to just reframe it for them as just being like, you know, they have to go learn Spanish. Mum has to go vomit.
Yeah, here's what we're each doing to
Yeah.
secure our South America trip. We're both
Exactly.
equally doing things. You know,
Yeah.
equally doing things.
Yeah. Yeah. My kids could never. Whining is like oxygen to them. Yeah. My kids
Isn't that a
are.
kid thing, though?
My kids would. It's winning. Being competitive wins out on whining just a little bit more. So it's that competitive thing of me being like, well, you whine too much and you can't come to South America. And they're being like, watch me, I'm fucking coming. Like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine complains after a 3-hour shift at work. I will tell her that the average round of chemo goes for fucking hours and hours, and she can think of me next time she's on a shift having poison pumped into my body.
It's,
I said to my... Yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I keep saying to my friends, I'm like, yeah, use my cancer any way you want. My friend's like, I'm going to go to work and tell them that I have to go home today. I'm just like, my best friend's got breast cancer and I'm just struggling to deal with it all. Like, I just really need the day. And I was like, fucking go for it. Like, here's my permission. Go use that bitch. And she's like, because these old biddies are so nasty to her. And she's like, I just
Yep.
fucking can't today. I feel like just going, well, tomorrow's got cancer, so fuck you. And I was like, do it. Do it. There's no point of getting breast cancer if you don't use it against those bitches at least once.
Absolutely.
Hey. Yes.
Yes, Gamer Jane, you're exactly right.
I mean, we're not having that discussion right now, but that
It's
is
a-
100% on, like, vibes are vibing.
Yeah, not only, like, it may not be the conversation we're having right now, but that is totally vibes for this podcast. Like,
Absolutely.
fuck, man, like, you've come in and you've just kind of nailed this podcast with one phrase. Bravo.
Yeah, absolutely. They want you to believe that the immigrants are the cancer, when in fact it's the billionaires and the oligarchs who are so insidious. Just on my mind. Mine too.
Always.
Always. Always. Because what frustrates me the most is when... So I was distracting myself from my cancer diagnosis and I was fighting with bots on YouTube. It's a bit hard on TikTok because I have too many friends on TikTok now who get on my videos first and, like, yell at all the bots. But on YouTube I don't have as many, and so it's just me against the trolls and the bots. And I was on there arguing with this guy about this because I made the video. I posted a video where I was like, remember at school where they told us capitalism was going to keep prices low because businesses would compete to see who could make the goods for as cheap as they could, as well as they could. And then businesses went, wait, no, all we have to do
Yeah.
is commodify basic necessities and we can jack the price up as much as we want and compete to see which basic necessity they'll go without.
Absolutely.
I posted that on
Zab
YouTube
Zab.
and I had all these idiots come like arguing with me in the comments, and I just spent 2 days arguing back with them. It was so much fun. Sorry. Yep.
Zab Zab just went ahead and made a reference to Team 4-Star, which I have not seen in a long time. All these squares make a circle. All these squares make a circle. It kind of just blew me away for a second there. Sorry. Took me right out of the conversation.
No, you're all good. Yeah, play the cancer card all day, every day. Abso-fucking-lutely. If anyone wants a good laugh at landlords, that topic is going off in tea time. Yeah. They're the worst also. Yeah. 100%. Fucking agree.
Oh man.
Comments are going off. But yeah, we want to try and avoid the spread of fascism. And unfortunately, just like cancer, there are lots of signs and symptoms that fascism may be infecting your electoral politics that you might not necessarily pick up as being symptoms to start off with. For example, I had some, what basically just looked like blackheads on my titty area that I put down to being blackheads, or perhaps, fake tan that hadn't come off completely, or a myriad of other things. Turns out, no, that's an early indication of breast cancer. And it's one that isn't described very well. They talk about your skin looking pitted like an olive. Like an olive. Pitted like an orange. But I wouldn't describe it like that. It just looked like I had little blackheads, which may or may not be pitted depending on your skin texture. So that's the best way to describe it as far as I can see. But quite often when you point out these symptoms across different, because symptoms will be different in person to person and present differently because of differences like skin texture, the same thing's true of communities that have different forms of fascism in them. We might sit here and say that we don't have the problem with fascism because Peter Dutton's not talking about kicking out immigrants. But we have had the stop the boat rhetoric going on for decades in this country. And the idea that they are trying to pin the housing crisis on our immigrant population when they are the only things keeping our fucking economy afloat, our struggling economy afloat. And then the Reserve Bank talks about like cutting interest rates. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, if the Liberals get in, we are fucked, guys. We are teetering on the edge of total collapse and people don't even realise it because we're ignoring all those symptoms because they don't look the same here as what they look like in the US. Peter Dutton talking about nuclear energy is the same fucking thing as Trump standing up there going, drill, baby, drill. Drill, baby, drill is Trump's version of nuclear power is Australia's future.
Yep.
And we don't recognise it because we don't talk about the symptoms and how they trans across people often enough, just like with cancer. But Maddie, you are going to talk about this today.
Well, not quite. Mine's a little different.
No?
Not quite, yeah. There'll be places where I'm sure you can find linkage because at the moment you seem to be finding links with absolutely everything. It's
of course.
Fantastic superpower
That's what I do.
You've picked up recently, and I kind of love it.
I've always had it. It's just never been like
you just haven't, been so
as poetic before.
About it. Yeah, but like there are enough similarities and connections between Dutton and Trump to see the same fascist rhetoric. We've got the same anti-trans hate that's coming forward. We've got the same conversations about woke, the amorphous bogeyman that the right wing has latched onto.
Yeah.
That they can't even fucking correctly tell us what they mean when they say it.
No.
Basically, it's just the new Marxism.
Yeah. But we do have
cultural Marxism.
We do have in Australia, we do have it a little bit different because in Australia you'll hear politicians outright say that's cultural bullshit. That's not what Australians are worried about. Australians are worried about putting food on the table. So we do have the difference over here where people will, because it's not just, people within the Liberal Party are dismissing that. Barnaby Joyce was asked about that. He was in an interview with Sarah Hanson-Young and she was saying this is cultural war nonsense. People are worried about how they're going to put food on the table. And Barnaby Joyce sat there and went, I hate to agree with Hanson-Young here, but I do. Like, we're focused as a party on how we're going to deliver better outcomes for the Australian public. So we do, again, we have those subtle differences that make people think it's not as bad here. It's not as awful here. But 24 hours later, Peter Dutton was talking about trans issues again. So just because we have that difference of the respectable, we're having a respectable conversation here, doesn't mean they're not all playing. Exactly. Doesn't mean they're not all playing on that culture war bullshit to try and get them votes. The fascism is still spreading.
This is exactly the thing, right? This is exactly the thing. Because our political parties have never been held to account for anything they've ever said.
Yeah.
Right? You've got people like Barnaby Joyce who can front up in an interview and agree with Sarah Hanson-Young that this is culture war bullshit in public. But then the second he goes back to the Liberal Party rooms, they're all talking about how as soon as they're in power, they're going to be removing the opportunity for gender-affirming care.
But see, this is the really concerning thing about it. They're not even going back and talking about that in the back room. They're not. That's the problem. Barnaby Joyce gets up there at an interview. He says, no, this is cultural bullshit. This is the problem. They go back into that room and they go, okay, how did that play? How did that play with voters?
Yeah.
Was it good or was it bad for our bottom line? Oh, no, there was a slight downtick. Seems our voter base really want us actually to hate on trans people. Quick, go out there and hate on trans people more. That's the real issue with this, is that they literally do not actually, they have no fucking care whatsoever, one way or the other, about trans people, because they know that it's all complete
by the
bullshit.
numbers.
They are just playing, and it's exactly what McGowan was doing during COVID with the whole, do I keep the borders open or not? Wasn't based on health advice, wasn't based on, it was literally based on how, he didn't give a shit what the other states were saying, he didn't give a shit, same with Dan Andrews, didn't give a shit what the other states were saying about him, didn't care what the media, he was saying, what do the voting public, what are they saying about me right now? I'm the most popular premier this state's ever fucking have, leave the borders shut. Leave the borders shut. And then as soon as it wasn't popular anymore, better open the borders, we're starting to have a downtick in numbers, the health experts were going, wait, our hospitals aren't quite ready. No, we gotta get out ahead of this before the polling turns on us.
But not only that, okay? Because when COVID was like first happening, my partner Willow and I were running a citizen reporting page.
Yes, I remember you telling me about this.
Translate the numbers that were released from WA Health and keep an accurate track and graph the cases so that you could see trends, right? And at the exact same time that they opened the borders, not only did they open the borders before the hospitals were ready, but they also stopped releasing the data to the public.
Yep.
And we had to search for it deep within WA Health. And
Yep.
then it went from daily reporting to end of week reporting. So we could no longer accurately track
What was
going on.
happening.
And then those end of week reports started disappearing. And they
Yeah,
stopped
altogether.
happening.
So when he was doing his daily reporting and stuff, McGowan, if you look back at the old tweets, you'll see me on my old account popping up constantly going, how about the housing numbers? How about Marky Mark, how about how many people were sleeping rough last night? How we talk about those numbers? Because over COVID, we went from 10,000 to 25,000.
Yep.
And it was like,
I was very nearly one of them.
what the hell? And a lot of people were just completely unaware. They were completely unaware of how bad the housing situation got over COVID until we came out the other side of it, and then people's rents started spiraling because everyone was looking for housing again when the market opened up again. Everyone started looking for housing again, and they went, oh, what the fuck? Like, it's that bad trying to find a house. And it's like, yeah, our housing insecure numbers like fucking nearly doubled over that time. And I was just harassing him over that because nothing was the time when we could have, as a way to both stimulate the economy since the borders were shut and it basically grounds so much of our economy to a halt. We could have been stimulating homegrown industry. We could have been building housing and growing that. No, better if we just play it safe. And they took a whole lot of money. I mean, McGowan took a whole lot of money, was money laundering through Crown Casino. That was found out during that time. And then he announced his retirement. And I remember when he announced his retirement, who was I talking to? I think it was Belle I was talking to, or I can't remember who it was I was talking to. I was talking to someone and I went, oh, what's
Belle.
about to come out? Yeah, I was like, what scandal's about to come out that is going to look a lot better if he's not still in office? They can't frame it as our actual premier, like what's about to come out. And then the gold scandal came out with him trying to steal gold from the Chinese.
Yeah, it was Belle.
It was Belle. And I said to her, what scandal's going to come out that it's going to look so much better if it says former premier? And it's like 2 days later.
Yep.
I was like, oh my God.
It's always the way though. Like if someone suddenly and randomly announces their retirement from politics, you know that within a week some shit's about to come down the pipeline.
Yeah.
You know, every time, every fucking time.
Even when they're 88 years old. Oh, she took a helicopter ride that most people just drive that distance. That's why she retired. Oh, she didn't retire in time, actually, did she?
No,
should have,
she
but
didn't. She was still in fucking Parliament when that one dropped.
She was still a front bencher. Oh, no, she was a backbencher at that point, wasn't she? She did. Yeah. Well, because she was besties with the PM. She's besties with the PM. Of course she thought she was fucking protected. The issue is if you have true isolation collapse, there will be no... Yeah. This is unfortunately when... This is one of the reasons why we decided as a group, as a collective, to instead of focusing on electoral politics, we started an election party. We started an election party. We were getting signatures. We were going to, like... run for election at this upcoming federal election. And then we were talking about it, and we said it's actually past the point where electoral politics is going to make a difference to our lives fundamentally. Like, it's too far gone to get those services back. They've already got ownership of pretty much everything. We're better off working on a commune and taking us out of the system at this point. So that's what we're working on. So we've got a 5-year plan to have land, tiny houses, and a library set up, which will have resources and stuff for people who like come and live and like take care of themselves out on the commune. Yep. Anyone who comes and like we're setting it up as a not-for-profit organisation. So anyone who comes and lives out on the commune is there actively working in the not-for-profit to help as a community, basically to establish our community that provides housing and livelihood for everybody. Yep. So the idea is that you come and you live there and you work on the commune together, providing housing services to other people. So even people who aren't necessarily wanting to live on the commune full time can get housing services from us on the commune. So that's sort of, we want to be like a provide holistic answers to housing and tenancy issues. So that's what we're working on.
It's a labour trade. Like,
yes.
You know, you come in, you provide labour to maintain and grow the ability for housing to be provided to people who need it, whether long-term or temporary.
Yeah.
And anybody who joins in also joins in maintaining and growing. It's a self-fulfilling cycle. Yeah. It's a circuit that connects itself.
Well, the idea is just to basically create a community that lives outside of the state, and the only way to do that in this day and age when the state, through corporations really via the state control every aspect of our life, the only way to do that is through the guise of
a not-for-profit or a corporation.
A not-for-profit or a corporation, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
because apparently corporations have the same fucking rights as people. So, they actually have better rights than people in Australia. It's America where corporations have the same rights as people.
Yeah.
In Australia, they've got better rights than people.
Yeah.
So, you create a corporation or an NFP, and all of a sudden, you can pretty much
do what you want.
As you will.
Do as you will.
I'm not going to say do what you want. Because that's not
can.
necessarily true.
If you get
big enough, yes. If you get big enough, yes.
You can do as you want as long as you hire the right people to figure out how to get you out of trouble.
Good point. Good point.
And we got one of them on staff. Have you met my mate Amy?
Yes.
I was going to say different levels of skill, different skill sets for different areas of trouble.
Look, Amy can deal with the legal stuff. I can deal with the extra legal stuff.
No, I was going to say, no, Amy can't deal with the legal stuff. Amy can deal with the, the financial, the tax stuff. That's the stuff where the big trouble is. Yeah, I've got the legal stuff sorted out. Don't stress there. But I was going to say...
Amy's financial, I'm extra legal. That's fine.
Well, I was going to say other Amy is probably the scarier when it comes to extra legal. Not going to lie, she scares me a little bit more than you, Maddie. You're a giant teddy bear.
Oh, that's because you've only seen the sweetheart side of me, darling. You never saw me when I was in my 20s. That person is still just laying there waiting.
Lurking beneath the shadows.
That person is itching for a fucking excuse.
Yes, Gamer Jam. I also think it is an excellent idea. I think we all agree that it's an excellent idea. If you would like to join our commune, you're more than welcome to. Definitely. I definitely feel like the last couple of weeks I've noticed a definite growth in people joining in different way, shape or form. I feel like we're starting, the worse things get, the more people are looking at this as something that is going to be the only way they have any kind of security going forward, which, can I just say, I know I've said nothing but saying, I know I've done nothing but say things, the whole time we've been talking.
50 minutes of can I just say?
Can I just say? Just 1 second. I love that our microphones are sitting next to each other so that they're we're talking to each other. We're talking into our microphones.
Yeah, our microphones are kissing.
I'm already mentally living on on the cult moon. Yeah, absolutely. I can't fucking wait to be living on the cult moon, honestly. In the can I just say sphere, forgot what I was saying now about the can I just say. Talking too much about can I just say.
You need to finish your thoughts, babe.
I do.
Okay,
it just doesn't.
Winding back to earlier, right? The one thing, being incredibly selfish for just a moment, The one thing that I'm most frustrated about finding out that you're starting treatment so rapidly is that I had been planning to come down and visit.
Oh.
Like, I had been figuring out how I was going to make that work, and I was aiming at next weekend. And I was going to surprise you with it today. And then our first part of the conversation is, well, actually, I'm starting treatment in like 3 days' time, and
I'm
that's
radioactive.
kind of that. And I'm like, well, for fuck's sake, Maddie,
Yeah.
like, all of this time you've known Tamara, you've had the opportunity to go down and visit. You haven't done it because you've been broke and disorganised. And the second you get your shit together, it all goes pear-shaped. And I was like,
Everyone's
right, yeah, that tracks.
ADHD stimulating them to finally get a move on and come visit because I got cancer.
It's not just that. It's just that I finally got my shit together enough to actually do things, man.
No, fair enough.
I've been
You're
stuck in
right.
a circuitous loop in my life for the last 8 months straight. Literally been doing nothing.
Couldn't come down when Belle was here. No.
I know, Belle. I know. I'm the fucking
No.
worst, man. I freely admit it.
You did, Lily. That is true. You did book before
Yeah.
the news. Not sure what's going to happen yet. I'm so sorry. Yeah. I have to figure out how much chemo I'm going to have first before I figure out if I'm going to be able to still go to the...
We'll figure that one out as it gets closer, hey? That one's still a couple of months off.
I have to figure out how I have to figure out how I go with the first round of chemo over the next 4 weeks. So I won't know until March if I'm responding well or not. Actually, I am not going to be able to go. I've just realised because into April I'll only be on my second course and I have to do 8 before I have surgery.
Tom, quick update. Things got worse than what was expected. We now have to do chemo rather than just surgery and radio. That's
we'll play with the ears.
That's the short version.
I'm happy to live in the air and play with the ears.
What a way to phrase it.
I fucking love that. That's like when I was in high school, I had this friend who I would say, cool bananas. And she would go, the bananas are indeed cool.
Like dipping your junk in the Arctic, the bananas.
Yes. The bananas are indeed cool. Sorry.
Fuck.
We weren't neurodivergent. Don't know why.
No. Nobody could have known at that
No.
stage of life. Impossible to tell.
Yes. So, yes. So we have chemo. We've got, my appointment tomorrow to go through all the other medications and stuff that are going to help me survive chemo, and then chemo starts. I did not think I was going to have to do chemo at all. So I was very excited originally. But yeah, chemo is not. I was like, life is going to go on completely uninterrupted. No, that is not the case. My life is being completely... Who would have thought cancer would be so fucking disruptive? Replace
Right.
cancer with fascism. And guys, this is why we can't vote for Dutton.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
All right. We have been nattering on for an hour. Should we do
Not
this
quite
episode?
yet.
And then, near enough.
Well, I keep trying to lead into the episode and then you keep being like, nope, that's not what the episode's about. And I'm like, shit, how do I do a lead into the conversation?
That's all right. I was going to do it. Jesus. I know what I've written, babe.
Oh, yeah, but the intro, what do you call it? The lead-in bit. The lead-in bit's usually just very conversational. It's very
True. That's a
you
good
know,
point. That's a
it
good
just
point.
kind of tends to be like
did forget about
segue
that.
and then it just happens.
Well, I mean, like, here's a pretty good start. What do you know about the changes to the way that the West Australian state election's going to work?
Aha, I know a lot about this, so it depends how much you want me to talk about it.
I want you to talk about it because I'm not covering state, only fed.
Okay, so basically the state election used to work very much the way people assume that our federal election system works. In the upper house, you only got to put one number in one box, and then the party that you voted for would decide, or the person you voted for would decide where that vote was going, where their preferences would flow to after that. And it caused a lot of issues in our electoral system, particularly the last election. So big changes will push through in August 2021 or 2022?
21, I think it was.
21, was it?
Yeah, I think
So it was
so.
pretty much 6 months after the election, then they pushed through this legislation quite quickly to be like, let's not have that happen again. So we now have a more preferential system in the upper house as well as the lower house in the state election, which also more closely aligns with both the federal system as well as the way that it's run in other multi-house systems of governments in other states in the fucking country.
Yeah.
Now I think New South Wales is the last state, the only state that was still doing it, or was it Victoria was the last state still doing it that way, the old way? But I believe they've now changed as well after the results of their last state election too. Everyone's
Yep.
realising it fucking sucks and was a stupid thing to do.
Yeah, very much so.
Yes. So, fun fucking times. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, like, that's quite a significant change to the way that voting is done in Western Australia.
Yeah.
What I'm going to be talking about today is very much about big changes that happen to voting, but more on a federal level.
Right.
So that's the plan for today. What I've written for the title in my own notes here is the Australian electoral system. How does it work and why do we do it this way?
Yeah.
But the title of this is Elections, spelt different, still hard. Because I have to make a dick joke. It's literally the only bit of humour that I've got left in my brain is, ha ha, penis.
Oh my God.
I can't
Far
help
out.
myself, man.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to start right from the start of Australia, before it was even federated, right? Or right from the start of Australia, rather than what it was called before colonisation.
So there is, for anyone who's listening who is a Ko-fi member, there is a bonus episode. Anyone who's not a Ko-fi member, this is also your sign to join up to the Ko-fi.
Yes,
There is a
please join
bonus
the Ko-fi.
episode that is in the Ko-fi that specifically talks about federation and how that whole process got started, and particularly around, not around the electoral system so much that we're talking about today. Just had to drop in an ad for the Ko-fi. Sorry, give you a moment.
Go for
Make
it,
that
please.
bag for the
Very
commune.
good.
It doesn't talk about the election system that we're going to talk about today, but it does talk about federation and the tantrum that was had by all and sundry during that process. So if you would like to learn more about that from our history books, please do join and become a Ko-fi member for that exclusive Ko-fi only episode. So, yeah, continue, Maddie.
Absolutely right. And not only that, but as I go through this, we will actually hit on some stories that we've done before. So the Ko-fi will actually, this episode will actually lead into some additional viewing on the Ko-fi.
Ooh,
So
fabulous.
this kind of ties everything we've done together, because we start from Federation and go all the way up to present day in this episode.
Fabulous.
So yeah,
Sounds
we're
exciting.
tying everything we've done together really nicely today.
It's magical.
Alrighty, so let's get started.
Let's do it.
When Australia was first colonised, they brought over the same system that was in existence in the UK at time, which is very similar to how it works in the US in present day. Very much a first past the post voting. The very first federal election in Australia was held in 1902 and used this first past the post voting for both the Senate and the House of Representatives. So
Yeah.
for anybody who's not an Australian, we have two different legislative bodies. One of them is the Senate, one of them is the House of Representatives, also known as the lower house and the upper house, Senate being the upper.
For international listeners, we call this the Parliament. Both the bodies together are called the Parliament. In the US, they call this the Congress. Their
Yes.
Congress is our Parliament. So, yeah, just connective tissue.
No, please feel free to interject at any time. This was written in a Vyvanse-induced haze at 8 o'clock this morning.
You've also picked literally, like, my specialty topic is political communication, literally doing my fucking master's on political communication, and particularly focusing around how we communicate during election season. So, you know, I can't not interject.
Babe, I know what I've done by picking this topic. I am making this the episode where we have the most
getting hot and sweaty.
conversations possible. Nice.
hot and sweaty
Getting
under the collar.
excited for this topic. Oh, yeah.
I actually might need to go get changed, guys. Don't start reading into things. It's fine. Yeah.
So yeah, the very first federal election used this first past the post voting system. Okay.
Yes.
And it wasn't until the 1918 election that preferential voting was introduced for both the Senate and the House.
Yeah.
Now, a little bit of history here. In 1916, a right-wing Labour Party splinter group that was led by the then Prime Minister Billy Hughes split off from the Labour Party due to an in-party fight over the issue of armed services conscription in 1916. They formed a minority government that they called the National Labour Party, which the next year merged with the Liberals to form the Nationalist Party in February of 1917. Now, because of his past ties to Labour's socialist policies, Hughes was distrusted by some on the conservative side of politics. In spite of forming a party called the Nationalist Party, somehow he was still distrusted.
Yeah.
And disaffected conservative farmers in Western Australia moved to support the newly formed Country Party, which had been formed just 4 years before in 1913, and they would be formed federally in 1922.
And do you know what's really fascinating, just a complete side point about this, is that during these tumultuous election times, whenever the Prime Minister would fly over to WA to try and help calm these things or to try and help win the people's vote back, he would have to, it was so difficult, communication was so difficult, he would have to appoint a Prime Minister to sit in situ while he was away in WA. So WA used to cause so many problems back in the day for
Western Australia, our state, is the reason that this country has preferential voting.
Yes, 100%.
It's our fault.
They couldn't keep dealing with this shit. They had to appoint someone
to
come over here and deal with it.
They only dealt with it for one fucking election, babes.
No, there was there was also a referendum. There was an election and a referendum. So so you're right. Sorry,
No, you're all right.
Usually when I
I
was going to say, usually when I correct you on something, I look up later. I'm like, oh, actually, no, technically he was right. I was just going based on memory. You've looked this up more recently than I have.
Yeah, I did a study.
Yeah, yeah, it was an election and a referendum, and it was the referendum that they were like, we can't fucking do this again.
So, as I said earlier, at the time of the 1918 Swan by-election, so Swan is a district in WA, right?
Yes.
So at the time that the 1918 Swan by-election was happening...
Quick side point, while you take your time to think about what you're saying next, guys. In the current upcoming election for Swan, Clint Ewing, a Yoga man from the region, is running, who is also the most fucking amazing human being that you'll ever meet in your entire fucking life.
Complete legend.
Works in the housing space, works on like Indigenous housing first principles, is a fucking absolute legend. If you have, I mean, we all do in the Western Australian state election, have the privilege of voting for this wonderful man, because he is also running in the state in the upper house. But in the federal election, if you have the wonderful privilege of voting for Clint Ewing, please do, because you could not have a better representative. You couldn't find one if you searched the entire fucking earth.
100% agree with that. Fully endorse it. It is 2 girls, 1 garbage can policy that we endorse Clint Ewing. For whatever
wherever he runs,
we can get him elected.
Whenever.
Right?
Clint Ewing for president.
Brother Clint deserves to run this fucking country.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
100% a better option than any other of the dogs that we've got in there right now.
Vibes. Vibes. I actually have to call my doctor real quick. You keep talking. I'm just going to mute myself and turn my camera off, and I'll be right back. Continue.
Absolutely, honey. Okay. So, where the fuck was I? Oh, yes, that's right. T's just dropped off for a moment. I'll let them know. I'll let her know as soon as she gets back. Yeah, timing. So, actually, let me move my microphone a bit closer to me. That might help matters. Okay, so as I said earlier, at the time in 1918, when Swan was having a by-election, Australia was still using the first past the post system, the exact same thing that was being used in the UK. Now, under this system, the winner of the election was simply the person who had the most votes, regardless of whether they could form a electoral majority or not. So majority meaning that you got more than 50% of the votes. Now, this by-election was the first of what have been come to be known in Australia as three-cornered contests. This one had two anti-Labor parties, both running candidates against Labor. The nationalist candidate, the one that was formed by Prime Minister Billy Hughes, was a chap named William Hedges. Basil Murray was the Country Party candidate, and Edwin Corby was the Labor candidate. I'm going to try that again. And Edwin Corby was the Labor candidate, with William Watson standing as an independent. Now, Hedges, the nationalist candidate, had previously been a member of the House of Representatives for the division of Fremantle from 1906 to 1913, and the former Premier, John Forrest, had won Swan in the previous election after he ran unopposed. Now, the reason that the by-election was happening is that John Forrest had actually passed away on a ship on his way to England off the coast of Sierra Leone. So he had actually died, and the elections for the seat of Swan needed to be held so that there could be someone to hold the seat. Now, because there were two anti-Labor parties, the Conservative vote was effectively split, with Hedges from the Nationalist Party achieving a 29.6% of the vote, and Murray of the Country Party getting 31.4% of the vote. Due to the first past the post system, Edwin Corby won the by-election with just 34.4% of the total votes. He was just 22 years and 2 months old at the time of his election to government, and he actually remained the youngest ever Member of Parliament in Australia that had been elected until the year 2010, when a younger member got elected, who was, I think, 20 and a few months old. Now, as a direct cause to the splitting of the vote in the Swan by-election, preferential voting, which is also known as ranked choice or instant runoff voting, depending on which one we're talking about, was introduced by the nationalist government at a federal level. It had previously been considered by Joseph Cook's government in 1913, who was also a Liberal Party member before they joined with the Labor right wing to create the Nationalist Party. But the impetus to change the voting system federally only came around due to the considerations of partisan advantage rather than any actual electoral theory. Now, I am going to take a break here because I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to reread that paragraph for tomorrow, because if they don't know about this already, this is going to be something they want to know. So what I'll do at this point is, if anybody in stream has any questions at all for me, please do feel free to ask and I will answer. It doesn't even have to be about the episode. It can be about me. It can be about my thoughts on the world. Ask away. I will answer in the best or most entertaining way I possibly can. Just because I want to kill time until Tamara gets back. Pineapple on pizza? Yes, absolutely. 100%. Your brain is blank entirely. That's perfectly understandable. I have been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. Oh, new nails. Let me see if I can get it so that the camera doesn't blur. There we go. Thank you. It's bisexual lighting marble. I have to fight the main character of the last TV show I watched. How screwed am I? Well, we've been watching the last season of My Hero Academia, and considering the main character of that show is basically an even more overpowered Superman, I am well and truly fucked. Even if he's a teenager, he's still going to kick my ass. He's got more energy than I am, for fuck's sake. How can we beat So? Support Tam. Honestly, best way is just to turn up. Just turn up, talk to him. You know, don't. How can we best support Tam? Right, okay, cool. Now I understand the full message. Yeah, just turn up to the streams. Let him know you're thinking of her. You know, like, don't be overly positive or negative or yada yada. You know, be even-handed. Follow Tamara's lead. That's the best thing I can say. Try and get people to subscribe to the podcast. Try and get people to subscribe to the Ko-fi. The Ko-fi that we get is being saved and used to fund the commune idea that Tamara has. And that is really something that is very much like a big goal of Tamara's, is to get that up and running. So the more people we can get on the Ko-fi for that $3 a month contribution, the more likely it is that we can get that big overarching goal kicking on and actually start making some progress on it. And as Lily said there, treat Tamara like a human being and not as a patient. You know, still exactly the same person you've always known. Just obviously be aware. Some days will be okay, some days won't. You know. Yeah, Tamara's personal Ko-fi is only $1. I think mine is only $1, but like I'm okay. I'll be fine. Don't stress about me. I'd much rather things go towards the commune or towards Tamara. That would make me happier than people donating to mine. Very much. Even if I am broke as a joke, the money can still be better used by Tamara or for the commune. I can always figure a way out. I'm a damn good cook, so I can make not much money spread a very long way. Yeah, I've had one for a while now, ever since I started doing the podcast with Tamara, but I don't talk about it much. I am considering starting an OnlyFans soon, though. That is a thing that I am considering doing. Because I've had a few people talk about my voice when I actually do the voice acting voice rather than the one I'm talking to you with now. You know, when I get a bit more measured with the way I use my voice and keep a more even tone. But I have also had people who've gone, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing whatever you've got hiding under that. So, you know, fuck it. I'll play along. Why not? If it makes me a couple of extra bucks so that I can afford life, I don't give a shit who sees my stuff. And besides, my nana always said, if you're good at something, never do it for free. Samesies. Yes, I know. Yeah. Also, I think I'm going to have to start up my photography business again. Just to, like, actually start doing some more creative and also money-making things. Your personal goal for the year is to bulk up my arms so I can punch Nazis more effectively, so join me in bulking up. Unfortunately, I am precluded from lifting weights, Zabzab, because I have a massive umbilical hernia. and my abdominal wall looks like perforated paper. If I lift anything heavier than 20 kilos, I stand the entire risk of my abdominal wall ripping apart and spilling my innards into my outards. So can't do that. And the true irony of it is that apparently the only public hospital service that does hernia repair will not treat me unless I agree to have a gastric banding done. Because the surgeon had gastric banding done and had success, but it doesn't matter that I've watched my mother go through absolute fucking hell after her gastric banding and be sick literally all of the time. I can't refuse it because apparently I'm too fat to have a hernia repaired. He's refusing to do it. So the hernia stops me from exercising properly. The lack of exercise stops me from losing weight. The amount of weight stops me from getting the hernia repaired, and you can see the vicious cycle building upon itself already. The good news is, though, since I've started ADHD medication, I've lost 20 kilos. So yeah, I've just dropped 20 kilos just all on its own, and I haven't really changed anything about my life, other than the fact that I am actually moving around more. I'm not necessarily exercising, but I'm moving around more because I've got the energy to move around. Surprise, surprise, what happens when your brain gets fucking treated properly? Who knew? You'll punch extra Nazis on my behalf? Oh, honey, don't stress. Even without exercising, I can still very effectively punch a Nazi. Don't even stress about that. As I was saying to Tamara earlier, like they were saying, you know, if they wrote a book about their life, no one would believe it because it's one tragedy after another. If I wrote a book about my life, no one would believe it because it just sounds like the most insane, made-up bullshit ever. Like the amount of things I've done in my life is wild, and the sheer variety of things I've done in my life is wild. You know. It's nuts, man. So yeah, but suffice it to say, without going into too much detail that could get me flagged for some additional attention, I very much know how to punch those who deserve it. We're good. Yeah, that's what I keep saying to my partners and my friends, Lily, is I've lived enough lives for a few people, and I'm not even 40 yet. Isn't it amusing? I've just seen the message that pops up, and it's reminded me, Tamara's message that pops up about the family that we're supporting to evacuate from Gaza. Isn't it really weird, right? How Trump takes office, makes an open statement about seizing Palestine, kicking Palestinians out, and redeveloping the land under American control, and suddenly left-wing, read centre, politicians around the world are up in arms about it, but Joe Biden spends his entire fucking presidency doing exactly the same thing, just not saying the quiet part out loud, and every left-centre politician in the fucking world supports him wholeheartedly with their entire fucking pussies. Like, not a word during Biden's term, but because the orange idiot said the quiet part out loud, now everybody has to act all offended, otherwise they get rightfully and accurately called out for being Islamophobic. As they should have been this entire fucking time, because they've been supporting a goddamn genocide, you know, but done under the cover of night so that nobody can tell, even though we can all fucking tell. Sorry, I am ranty today. I am wound up. And, yeah, I don't really get to talk about this with my partner because they are stressed to shit from work and very tired by the time they get home. So I spend their home time, their downtime, looking after them and making sure they're okay, so that they can go back to work, because they are the primary breadwinner for the household at the moment, because I am not well enough to go to a job and be away from the things I need to exist for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, depending on transport. So my role at the moment is as a support main for my partner, who's tanking life. Bit of a special one for those of you who play video games. So yeah, I don't really get to vent my spleen about everything to my partner because they're struggling to keep their head above as it is. They're also neurodivergent and masking all of the goddamn time at work. So, you know, like, they're exhausted by the time they get home, and the last thing they want to hear is me ranting about politics for an hour and a half while I get all of the bullshit of the day out of my brain. But you guys, you're choosing to be here. You could leave the stream at any time if you so chose. I really hope you don't. I hope you bring some friends in so that they can listen to some fucking real shit. But you'll choose to be here, so I guess it's okay for me to have a bit of a rant to y'all about the things that are fucking bothering me. I'm the yes. Absolutely, Zab. 100%. 100%. Oh, see, I never did the MOBAs. That wasn't something that I got into. Mine was more hero shooters. So I was referencing things like Overwatch and that sort of thing before, which I played until all of the shit about Blizzard came out, and I stopped playing the second I heard those news stories. Basically gave up a game that I'd put literal years into because fuck that. Only played a little bit, know lots of gaming lore. Excellent. Tom, abso-fucking-lutely, I'm choosing to be here, and bloody hell do I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys too. I really do. It's good to have you all here every week to listen to the things that Tamara and I dig up about the Australian political system and what's going on with politics both here and in the world, and how the past can give us hints about the future if you pay attention enough. Yeah, it's important to learn your histories, my dudes. This is the biggest bit of advice I could give anybody that turns out to this podcast or listens to this podcast in its edited down form. Is the most important thing for anybody who is looking to stay ahead of the bullshit right now is to learn your fucking histories. Because your histories are going to tell you exactly what is going to happen next. We are 10 years too early at the moment. Things have accelerated. I had assumed that we were going to be on a 100-year cycle, but things are happening 10 years earlier than they should. So for reference points, look to the state of the world, and particularly look to the state of Germany 90 years ago, and see where we're at, because it will be enlightening, if you haven't already, to go through what was happening in Germany versus what's happening in the modern United States. And read some translated speeches from the failed painter with a shit mustache, and compare it to the orange fascist. And see if you can't find some fucking similarities in what they're talking about. Because all strongman leaders have the exact same playbook. He is literally just reading Mein Kampf and plagiarizing what's in it. Let's see. Lily, wouldn't be anywhere else, to be honest. Thank you, sweetheart. Very much appreciated. And then Zab Zab. Wish Blizzard had been a bit less of a shitty company over the years. I really enjoyed their games, but hated their deplorable business practices. When people are making hidden rooms to hide people rather than hide snacks or hidden libraries, you know the situation's getting dire. Abso-fucking-lutely. And it's not just their business practices, man. It's the way they treated their employees. Like, don't get me wrong, like, some of the most recent stuff from Blizzard has been egregious cash grab bullshit, which, you know, I expected after Activision bought them out. But Blizzard, the company, as of, you know, 10, maybe even 15 years ago, has been a toxic fucking cesspit to work in. And it's just like, holy fuck, man. Not fucking great. Yeah. Not fucking great at all. Their deplorable business practices protecting those assholes who... Ah, yes, understood. Understood. Yeah, you're absolutely correct in that case. Yeah, 100%. Jesus Christ. Yeah, did anybody else have any questions, comments, hot takes that they want me to react to? Any thoughts that you want to get out of your head? And I'm happy to have a chat with you. I am by no means a licensed therapist, but I'm more than happy to have a yarn to you as a friend. If you've got something you want to talk about and you don't mind it being on a public forum, you just let us know. If you do have something that you want to talk about and you do want to keep it private, just put an asterisk at the start of it, and I'll just use your screen name rather than your actual name if I know it. Just because, you know, privacy and all that shit. You'd like to scream, be turned to goo and tucked into bed forever. I have a way of making that happen. Braff just wants to be a marshmallow. Yeah, toasty. Wrapped in graham crackers. Drizzled with chocolate. Jesus Christ, Maddie. Stop it. Yes, please, to the marshmallow, the graham crackers, or the way I have of making it happen. Or just all three. Marshmallows don't have nerves, I'm sold. Actually, yeah, that's a really fucking good point. That's a really good point. I'm into it. I'm into it. I'm already partway there. I'm all squidgy and shit. I'm not nearly white enough, though, to pass as a marshmallow. Marshmallow after you started toasting it.
Hello.
Hey, yeah.
How have we been going? I have not been here. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. I've just been bantering with these guys. I actually stopped talking about the topic because I got to a bit that I thought you'd want to hear about. I don't know if you already know it. So I got to a bit I thought you'd want to hear about. Are you doing okay?
Yep.
Yep. We're good to keep chugging along?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
If you need to pull the plug, you need to pull the plug, babe.
No, I can... I don't know how good I'm going to be at staying focused. I'm just waiting for another call now. It's just... It's fine. I just want one of these calls to be good news, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, so what was interesting?
All right. Well, I'll jump back a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because
Why
you're
not?
gonna want to hear it. Belle has just said log off. It's okay.
Nah.
If you need to log off, seriously, I can just
Nah.
plow through the rest of this. And if you want to do reactions to it later, you can do reactions to it later.
No, I'll wait till. I mean, I'm waiting another call, but I'll wait till the other call comes through. We'll keep going.
All right. All right.
Got nothing else
Well,
to do while I wait.
let's just smash through as much as we can.
Yeah.
And when you need to dip, you just tell me. All right.
No worries. There is a fly
Okay,
that's annoying me now.
cool.
Yep.
So, where was I? Okay, so yeah, when the Swan by-election happened, and the reason it happened is because John Forrest, the WA
Yes.
Premier at the time, actually died on his way to England. He was on a boat off the coast of Sierra Leone, and he passed away. So the by-election for Swan needed to happen to put somebody into the now vacant seat. Australia was still using first past the post voting in 1918. Now, the by-election was the first of what have come to be known in Australia as three-cornered contests, with two anti-Labor parties both running candidates against Labor. The nationalist candidate, the one that was put up by the Prime Minister Billy's party,
Yeah.
was a chap named William Hedges. Basil Murray was the Country Party candidate, and Edwin Corby was the Labor candidate, with William Watson contesting as an independent.
Yeah.
Now, Hedges of the Nationalist Party had previously been a member of the House of Representatives for the division of Fremantle from 1906 to 1913. The former Premier John Forrest, before he passed, had won Swan in the previous election after running completely unopposed. Now,
Yeah.
because there were two anti-Labor parties, the Conservative vote was effectively split,
Yeah.
with Hedges of the Nationalist Party achieving 29.6% of the vote and Murray of the Country Party getting 31.4%. Due to the first past the post system, Edwin Corby won the by-election with just 34.4% of the total votes. At the time of his election to the Swan District, he was just 22 years and 2 months old, and he remained
And he
the
would have
youngest
been-
ever...
And he would have been unpopular with 2/3 of his electorate.
Yeah, and he remained the youngest ever member of Parliament who was elected right up until 2010.
God almighty.
Yeah. Now, as a direct reaction to splitting the vote,
Yeah.
preferential voting, also known as ranked choice or instant runoff voting, was introduced by the nationalist government at a federal level. It had previously been considered by Joseph Cook's government, a Liberal Party member before they merged with the National Labor Party to form the Nationalists.
Yes.
And his government had considered it in 1913. But the impetus to change the voting system in Australia federally only came around due to the considerations of partisan advantage rather than actual electoral theory. So it was
Right.
only because the Nationalist Party thought if we bring in
We've got bigger
ranked
chance
choice
to win
voting,
more seats.
it will give us the advantage. And they were right, because up
This
until
was-
1990,
Yeah.
the Liberal Party primarily were the
Dominated.
beneficiaries of it.
Yeah. I was going to say as well, this happened before we had mandatory voting in Australia as well, wasn't it? We switched to preferential voting before we switched to mandatory voting.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Now-
they were playing with numbers that were lower numbers too. They were trying to
Yeah.
gamble with smaller percentages. So yeah. Yeah.
Now, so that's federal level stuff. But preferential voting actually appeared in Australian state politics before that, with
Right.
Queensland using a quasi-preferential system called contingent voting that worked by counting all of the initial votes and then eliminating all but the two highest polling parties then redistributing the votes from eliminated parties according
Yeah.
to the voters' listed preferences.
Kind of like a
Queensland
runoff situation.
Kind of, but
Sort of.
instead of one at a time to see where the votes
Yeah.
actually go, they just got rid of
Preferential
everybody but the
runoff
two
system.
highest. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
I suppose back then as well, they had so many more errors with miscounting and things. It would have been so much harder to monitor it all. You have to try
Absolutely.
and simplify it in whatever ways you can. So it makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
But Queensland continued to use contingent voting at a state level until 1942,
Wow.
which
Okay.
makes it one of the longest ever uses of contingent voting in the entire world.
Wow. Yeah. Fuck. Okay. Yep.
Preferential voting in its true form was first used in Australia during the 1908 Western Australian state elections. So
Yeah.
here we are again, leading the fucking way.
Yeah.
Preferential voting primarily benefited the Liberals, as I said, until the 1990 election, when Labor received a net benefit from the system for the first time ever. So it was actually a really shrewd political move from Billy Hughes to introduce it, because it primarily kept the right wing of Australia in power
Yeah.
for almost 100 years.
And it also doesn't make sense then, because all right, we know that Labor and Libs are actually on the same side of politics. They're both right-wing
Yes.
parties. Like, we understand and accept that. And so they work together on a lot of things. But what does frustrate me a little bit is some of these policies that they're working together on that you're like, this is going to have a direct negative impact on Labor specifically. Because there are a lot of people who are left-wing voters who are confused enough about the way voting works that they'll preference Labor over other left-wing parties because they don't understand how preferential voting works.
Yep.
And the problem that Labor have is that they're now discouraging more smaller parties from being able to run in elections because they don't want as much competition. But that competition is the only thing getting them more votes than the Liberal Party, because the Liberal Party are able to confuse everyone through like how to vote cards handed out by the fucking guys in yellow at every election.
You know exactly where I'm taking this episode tomorrow. You can read my fucking mind like no one else on earth, my love. Now, for
God
our
almighty.
overseas viewers
Yeah.
and those who aren't as super locked into politics, read as obsessive as Tamara and myself
Yeah,
are.
we call it a mental illness. It's our brain rot. Back when I was in
Now-
a cult, we used to say people who were engaged with worldly activities like this, we used to call them mentally diseased. And I just feel like it actually works. It's the one thing the cult got right. We are mentally diseased.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100% we are.
No one normal has this much of an interest in politics. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck no. Fuck no. Who'd do this to them? If their brain worked properly, for God's sake.
I have
Okay,
cat's brain.
so-
What's your excuse, Maddie?
Me, I'm just a fucking idiot. Hey, Maddie. Another Maddie in chat.
Hello,
Belle told you to come here. Thank you, Belle. Well, welcome to Two Girls, One Garbage Can, my friend. Today we're
Welcome
talking
to
about
the house of
the electoral system of Australia, how it came to be, and what is going on in current politics.
Yes.
So, as I was saying
A very
before,
good day to you.
for our overseas viewers or people who just don't give a fuck about politics as much as Tamara and I do, here's how our voting system actually works on a federal level. Okay, I'm not going to talk about state because this will take me way longer if I start doing that.
I'm going to
'Cause every
insert a
state has
TikTok
different
in
rules.
here for editing, my TikTok that I already edited for editing purposes, just to make my life easier here.
Good idea. Love you. So, essentially, when an Australian goes to the ballot box, we're given a sheet of paper with all of the candidates' names on it. And we write numbers from 1 to whatever number of candidates are listed in order of our preferences. When the ballots get counted, if no candidate achieves a majority, meaning no one received more than 50% of the first choice or number 1 votes, then the candidate with the least amount of first preference votes is eliminated. So, for instance, I hope this isn't backwards. It is backwards. God damn it. So, say on your thing, you've got Greens, Liberal, Independent, Cookers, even more Cookers, Labor, Communist, and Socialist as the parties you can vote for.
Okay, I have to interject because I'm sorry, but you obviously haven't seen my TikTok because otherwise you would have used my amazing pun of the
I haven't
candidate.
yet. I'm sorry. I've been writing this all
So
morning.
oh no, this is like from years back. One of
Oh,
the
well,
puns that I
yeah.
made, I had like I was voting for like I had pieces of rubbish because some of our electoral politicians are just bits of rubbish. But I
Yep.
also I had an ice cream cone who was my prime cone today. And I was like, come on, Maddie, please at least use the cone. You didn't even use the cone date joke.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I
I was so
failed
proud of
you.
that pun
I
because I was
failed
like,
you, babe.
here's a special treat. It's a cone date.
I'm not even getting into cone today, man. I'm avoiding that shit. It got too complicated for my brain and I started freaking out. So, say on your ballot paper, right? You've got Greens, Liberal, Independent, Cookers, even more Cookers, Labor, Communist, and Socialist, right? And you write your votes in order of whatever you want. Okay. Now, the one that you rank number one doesn't get enough votes to make a 50% majority. So they are knocked off of your list and knocked out of the race.
Ranked choice.
And you then, your ticket, your ballot that you put in, now your number two choice is your new number one. And
Yes.
all of the people who voted number one for the party that got knocked out, their number two is then distributed to their next choice, right?
So
And so on and so forth until somebody makes that 50% majority.
yeah. So the way that I explain it to my kids is that because I use okay, oh my god, they're all still here. Okay, I can use the literal characters that I used on my children. All right. Yes. So we got a few different options in our area for who we want to win. All right. We got Bulbasaur over here. Bulbasaur is amazing. All right. He's the greatest. He's an independent though. He doesn't have like a group of people around him. He's just out here fighting for our local community. So we support Bulbasaur. The problem is Bulbasaur is likely only going to get 10% of the votes for the electorate. Now, that's not a bad thing. We get a lot of side benefits for running for election, so it's not worth it, okay? And there is going to come a time when Bulbasaur is going to have enough votes to get elected, so we've got to keep supporting Bulbasaur. And we want to support Bulbasaur, but you don't want your vote going to waste because Bulbasaur's only going to get 10% of the vote, so Bulbasaur's not going to get elected. So on our list, after we put Bulbasaur number one, we put Emperor Shang Yang number two, right? Because we love our fucking... by God, you know, he's a king. He's a legend. I actually used Mulan first because I was like, we need the trans goddess, but I can't find her right now, so we're using Yang. All right,
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
you put him number two on your profile. Now he runs with an established party. Yang runs with a fucking established party. They got quite a bit of power for him, so there's a chance that Yang could win. So you put him number two. Right? Now, in this particular election, Yang didn't get enough votes to win, but that doesn't mean it's not worth putting Yang to. He gets more support, more money, gets the word out there, all those great sorts of things, and also increases in the vote, signal to his party that his area is one that's worth sending more help to. So next time they'll invest even more in Yang running that election. All right? The next option we've got is fucking Belle, right? Little precious fucking Belle, who's running because Daddy paid for her to. She knows her shit though. Like, she loves this shit. She's actually educated this shit. So she's not the worst fucking option out there. She does know what she's fucking talking about. But, I mean, she's just a little bit snooty. Just a little bit like, okay, whatever, Belle.
There's a little too much of that privilege established.
Yeah, we're just like, do we really need Belle? Well, we do, because Belle's the most likely actually to win the seat because of that established power that she's got. So it's worth putting her number three, because if we don't put Belle number three, we're stuck with the fucking Beast. Okay? Because here's what all the fucking dickheads vote for. This is Beast pre-transformation. He hasn't learnt shit yet, all right? He's still running around being a dickhead at this point. Okay? So if we don't rank out to who we most like, or to who we least like, then we're stuck with this bitch. Because if we put him any higher up in that list, then we're risking him winning, okay? If we put her any higher in the list, she's probably going to win anyway. And we weaken the support for the people who are out there doing the work, who are actually going to improve the community, because they don't need to be in office to be doing good for the community. They don't need to get elected to be doing good for the community. And even just signalling to our elected officials that the causes that these guys are championing, ones that you care about, means that people like Belle and the Beast have to pay attention to those causes or risk losing to the other one next time. Because if you're someone who voted for Yang because you care about trans issues over Bulbasaur, you're going to put Bell above the Beast, obviously. But let's say the Beast comes out and starts telling you all about how he's for trans rights. Then there's more likelihood of him getting put above Bell, and then he's going to win the seat because they're vying not to be last. They know they're not vying for first on your ballot ticket. They're just vying not to be last after the other one. Because that is literally how our electoral system works, is that the two big guys... But you don't... This is the problem, is that eventually enough people are going to vote for Yang or Bulbasaur, and we saw it in the last election. But what does tend to happen is that they only get 3 fucking years to try and change the whole fucking world. And because they didn't, everyone's going to snap back and turn around and go, well, we better give the Beast a go because maybe things will be better under the fucking Beast. Like we weren't well aware that he was fucking a wild animal 5 seconds ago. We were all very well aware of that 5 fucking minutes ago. What happened that made us all forget what a fucking fucktard this guy is? Please explain.
So not to ruin your beautifully crafted analogy, okay? Not to ruin it, okay? But Beast, once he's calmed down, way hotter than when he gets turned back into a human.
Yeah, agreed.
Controversial opinion.
But that's why we specified he was the Beast post any kind of like...
Yes, yeah,
he hasn't done
exactly.
any growing. It's the Beast at the beginning of the movie.
Not to ruin your beautifully crafted analogy.
He's the Beast on all fours, howling at the moon.
Yes.
Before Belle even shows up.
Chasing people through the woods and cutting them up and locking them in his dungeon. Yeah, and treating his house staff who got turned into fucking inanimate objects because he was a dick. Like
and we're gonna have Prince Charming instead of Belle because he works better for the privileged analogy as well.
Good point.
Other than Belle.
He's white as shit.
He's white as shit. He's the privileged motherfucker I have in my kids' toy collection. So we're just gonna put him. He's so fucking... Anyway.
All right. So
that's how voting works.
Exactly. That is exactly how ranked choice voting works. Beautifully done with Pokemon and Disney characters. Bravo.
Yes, Belle, that's very well put. I did. I swung... it was because of our... So, in my example, I was Shang.
Yep.
And I was running in a seat that had been held by the Beast forever. Like, since voting began in this country, the Beast had always held this seat. And I was Shang, went running. And Prince Charming was laughing at me saying, I can't believe you're wasting your time actually running in this seat. And because of ranked choice voting, because people put me one... And I campaigned and told them that the person who most closely aligned with my values was Prince Charming. They put Prince Charming number 2. Prince Charming didn't even run a campaign. The swing that happened in that campaign, you can look on Wikipedia if you don't believe me, happened as a result of our election campaign because we talked to enough people who were willing to vote for us one and then put them number 2 that it changed the outcome of the fucking election and the Beast lost his seat. And Prince Charming was pissed off at me because Prince Charming was planning to run for a federal seat. The state seat was just a precursor run.
Yeah, so he got stuck with the state seat.
They're not running again. And the worst part is they're not running again. And Shang's fucking party aren't even running a winnable fucking candidate or running it as a winnable seat, despite the fact that we literally changed the seat's colour last time. Yeah, and the incumbent isn't running again. The incumbent isn't fucking running again. I said, get out the fucking way. I'll come up and run, and I'm going to run on the fact that I'm dying of breast cancer. Someone, vote for me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Jesus.
Moving on.
So.
Idiots.
That was perfectly explained. So now in this way, you can see that there is exactly zero risk associated with voting the way you want to vote. Mm-hmm. Because unlike in places in America with an entrenched two-party system where voting third party is quite ineffective, in Australia you can confidently vote for a minor party without fear that you're wasting your vote. Mm-hmm. Now, technically, Australia actually uses 2 separate forms of preferential voting.
Yes.
We use single transferable voting for the upper house and instant runoff for the lower house. The method that I've just explained is the instant runoff system, or IRV. Single transferable voting, or STV, works a little bit differently in that if a candidate gets more than the electable quota of the first choice vote, which is more likely to happen as the upper house has less candidates standing for election, then any votes above that threshold are classed as remainder votes and they get distributed to the second choice candidates. So it kind of goes the opposite direction. Yeah. Now, I don't want to get too far into the weeds with this, but it does need a little bit of explaining.
I'll explain it. Do you want me to give you the analogy I gave my kids?
You can do, yeah. Yep.
It's a really simple analogy.
Go for it. Go for
All
it.
right. So you got a group of mates. You and all your mates want to go in, right, together because you're all running together on one ticket. That's how the Senate works. The whole state or the whole country basically gets one, like the whole state gets the one upper house ticket, right? So everyone's running together as a party on the same ticket. So all you and your mates, instead of being in individual seats, you're all running together in a big clump, and you put yourself 1, 2, 3, 4, and you've all got a little cup.
Mm-hmm.
And however many cups you get filled up, that's how many of your friends get to go to the party.
Yep.
So once your cup's full, you don't need to keep filling it. So even though people might keep trying to give you drinks, you pass them on to your friends because you want as many of your friends as possible to go to the party. So It doesn't matter. Like, they put you number one on the list so that you get all the number one votes. So you're definitely in, but you can pass on those extra drinks to your friends so that you can get as many of your friends in as you want.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who won't. They'll put other people. They won't let you pass it on to your friends. They will say, no, you can have it, but if your cup's full, no, you don't get to pass this drink on to your friends. It's going to go over onto someone from another party instead. Mm-hmm. And they take your little cup away.
Now, that is something that is also changing with the new rules in Western Australia for elections. They have removed the ability for those vote pass-ons, and now it will be how you number your votes.
That's what I'm talking about.
But it's now based on how you number it. They're not allowed to do the pass-ons.
No. I'm talking about the voter being the person who passes the vote on. So if your voter follows if the voter votes above the line and puts Greens 1, then the person who's number 1 gets their cup filled and then it goes down to everybody else. But if they voted below the line and they put you as number 1 and then they went, no, actually, if your cup's full, I don't want you to pass it on to your friends in your party. I'm going to pass it on to this other candidate that I really like who's in a different party. So that if someone votes above the line, then your party gets to just divvy it out down the list for all of you, like pass the cups down the list. But if you want to vote below the line because you're like, I like one candidate from this party, like Clint Newick, who's an absolute fucking legend, but I hate all the other fucking candidates from this party because they're all cunts who are so obsessed with holding on to power that they're literally letting bad things happen within the party for the sake of power. You can choose to put a 1 next to Clint Newick's name and then go off onto another little minor party or independent to put a little number 2. You do not have to vote above the line. You can take that little cup and hand it on to somebody else.
You can go below.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's... Sorry. Good thing that you caught that, though, because that could have been very confusing if I hadn't specified that.
Now, I am still going to go on with what I was going to say anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Because there's a bit of additional context.
Yes, and I was doing the childlike 5-year-old explanation.
Yeah, exactly.
Adults listen to this podcast.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
No, I love you guys.
Every time my phone rings, I
love
jump like a fucking... Anyway, sorry, continue.
No worries. Now, as I said, I don't want to get too far into the weeds here, but this does need a little bit of explaining. So just now you heard me mention the electable quota rather than the 50% majority. This is because in the upper house there are only 76 seats. 12 seats are assigned to each of our states, and 2 of them are assigned to each of the territories, being the Northern Territory and the Australian Capital Territory. So the rules change a little bit. Essentially, the state... votes for the upper house are decided by the total amount of votes cast divided by the available seats for election plus 1.
Yep.
This system is known as the DROOP, that's spelled D-R-O-O-P, quota, and it is actually biased towards the larger parties. In fact, it's the most biased possible quota that can still be considered proportional. So this system for Senate votes favours Labor and Liberal far more than it does any minor party.
Yeah. And what's really annoying about the way that we've changed our voting in Western Australia is that rather than doing what we really should have done, which was create super seats, which would be like having 5 candidates or, having 4 candidates for every region that we already had distributed, like North Metro, whatever.
They've eliminated regions.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Now it's just statewide instead, but they could have instead
Yeah.
turned them into super seats, which is the most proportional way that you can vote, which is when you have all the candidates running for a seat, and then the votes are divvied out by proportion of how many
Yep.
people voted for each, and then that's how many seats they get, proportional to the votes that they receive. So if
Yeah.
if 25% of the population vote for the Greens, and they get 25% of the seats that are available for that region, so that's what a
Yep.
super seat majority is.
Yeah.
That was what everyone was hoping they were going to do with our upper house here, because we were already set up for it. Instead,
Yeah.
they decided to abolish regions and do the droop system the same as what the federal system works on, because it favours the two major parties. And the Labor Party, the Liberal Party, they did it because the Liberal Party was the one. It wasn't for the Labor Party. The Labor Party passed it.
Yeah.
Both
No,
houses
it's
of Labor
because
went,
the
yeah, you're
Liberal Party
right.
got absolutely wiped out at the last state election.
To protect the Liberal Party. The Labor Party
Yeah.
are doing this to protect the Liberal Party. They're manufactured opposition.
They do not want the Greens as their opposition, because it would
No,
force them to
they don't
move
want real
further to the
opposition.
left.
Absolutely.
It'd force them to move further to the left to cater
Yeah.
to the new demographic of voters who were
Yeah.
seeing, oh, okay, hang on a second, this is the alternate option, rather
Yep.
than we'll murder everyone actively rather
Yep.
than passively.
Yep. And because, unfortunately, I know all of that about this, about behind the scenes with the Greens as well. Unfortunately, because behind the scenes, the old people running the Greens are just so obsessed with holding out onto the power that they've got within the party.
Yep.
They're not even looking externally. All they've been doing is fighting amongst themselves to hold on to power within the party. They're not even looking externally. There's like nothing happening campaign-wise as far as that's concerned. And it's gotten so bad that it's gotten to the point that, like, there are seats that would literally be winnable seats for them if they weren't so gung-ho on the fact that, no, they've never been winnable seats. There's no way it's going to be a winnable seat. Like, there are two seats that I know, based on the last election result, even if they just had a modicum of a campaign, they would be winnable seats in this upcoming
Yeah.
state election. And they don't even have actual candidates running for it.
Yep. They haven't even tried.
Nope.
Like, it's wild, man. It's
Because
truly
because
wild.
they've been so focused. Everyone within the party has been so focused on running for positions within the party to try and wrestle control of the party from within, which is a problem that Labor and the Libs have kind of worked out by doing this whole, like, it's your turn tap on the shoulder thing, which, is the way that these established politicians with all this money do it, and what these old people in the Greens who are like basically killing the movement, they're doing the same thing with. They're going, it's not your turn. It's not your turn. And it's like,
Yep. You haven't been tapped
motherfucker.
yet.
We've got a candidate over here who fits the demographic. Like, it doesn't fucking matter whose turn it is. I don't give a shit whose name it is there. You got a candidate who's going to work, who's going to have the right credentials, who's going to have the right image that you want for the party, for the fucking campaign. You're a minor you have no power at the moment. It is all about the fucking campaign. Nothing else should fucking matter to you except the fucking campaign. Everything,
Yeah.
including who gets to run, should be based on the optics of running a really good fucking strong campaign. Because nothing else
Absolutely.
fucking matters at this point. You have nothing. You've
Yeah.
got bucket anyway.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Like, if you don't win the campaign, you don't have any power.
No.
What is the point of squabbling over nothingness if you don't get in?
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking so stupid.
This is what they were doing
Alright.
at the last state election as well in 2021. This is what they were doing before that election, and they lost all of their seats. But they won one in the seat that, here's some behind the scenes stuff. The the state election, the lower house candidate for Fremantle in that election was running a really great campaign, completely against what the wishes of the party and what they wanted to do. They were basically just running their own thing on the side. And they're like the same group now running Clint's campaign, which does have party backing now. They've kind of gone, yay, Clint, hopefully you do something for us. But anyway, but
Yeah.
they were the reason for the huge spike in the vote down there that managed to get that upper house candidate elected. So it was because of the push from the lower house seat. And the leader of the party said to me after that election, we've had a look at the numbers, and you're right, we really do need to focus on the lower houses. This is where we have the opportunity to really make a difference, because one election result, like in one seat, if we focus on one key seat in every area, then we'll not only win that seat, but we'll also win an upper house candidate. If we focus on a lower house campaign, just as a natural flow on, we'll get this additional power. You're right, we should change our whole. And then they've gone back, and because they've changed the voting style, everyone's clambering to be an upper house candidate because they're all so convinced that they're going to get in. I'm like, it's going to be harder to get in an upper house candidate now. It's even more important to focus on those lower house seats. But nope. They've just gone straight back to doing the exact same fucking thing that they did before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they always will until we kick out the old guard.
We need him to
Okay.
die.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, now that was a bit of a slog through the minutiae of how the system works. So, what I'm going to do now is move on to some rapid fire facts about how the Australian electoral system has changed over time. Okay, so in 1924, a private member bill was introduced to make voting compulsory for all eligible citizens.
Yeah, get out the vote.
This saw, sorry?
Get out the vote.
This saw an increase of voter turnout from a record low of 59% in 1922 to 91% in the next year's election in 1925. So a massive jump.
Yeah.
In 1949, the Chifley government increased the number of senators in the upper house from 36 to 60, making it 10 from each state, none for the territories. And the number of members in the lower house from 74 to 121.
Yeah.
The STV system was introduced for the upper house. All Indigenous Australians who were eligible to vote in their respective states were granted the right to vote, as well as any Indigenous Australians who had served in the military, regardless of their state's rules on Indigenous people voting. Because at this time, certain states had different rules on the eligibility of Indigenous people to vote in elections.
Yeah. Just jumping back to 1940, the changes you're talking about made in the 40s, because that was also the first time that we had anything that sort of resembled proportional representation as well.
Yes.
So what I was talking about before with the super seats, being able to do that, that was the first time. I mean, it's like, obviously, but that was sort of actually something that I remember being like one of those things that it was a bit of an experiment at the time, sort of whether it would work or not. So, yeah, it was interesting little side point. Probably not interesting to anyone but me.
No,
Whatever.
it actually was something I was going to get onto a little bit later after I've done the rapid fire.
Radio.
Now, in saying that about Indigenous people being granted the vote, from 1949, the Australian nationality law had been amended to create the Australian citizenship. The nationality criterion for the franchise, the ability to vote, remained that of being a British subject.
Right.
So in order to vote, you had to be a British subject. Mm-hmm. So, they said they were granting the right to vote, but realistically, unless you could prove you're a British subject, no, you couldn't. Mm-hmm. In 1962, the Menzies government extended the franchise, the right to vote, to all Indigenous Australians to vote in federal elections, although their enrolment was voluntary rather than mandatory like white Australians. And the amendment that Menzies passed actually made it a criminal offence to encourage Indigenous Australians to enrol to vote. So they could say publicly, yeah, we're granting Indigenous Australians the right to vote. Here you go, guys. Go for it. It's not mandatory for you to enrol, and if anybody tells you that you should enrol to vote, we can jail them.
Yeah. Now, look, there is a lot of discussion within the Indigenous community about whether or not we should vote at all in white man's electoral systems. I'm not going to get into the Indigenous politics of it right now. It's still an ongoing discussion in the community. And as an anarchist, I 100% side with the no, fuck it, there's no point. But as a realist, I also understand that is just, it's one little thing that I'm doing on the side every now and then. I'm actually much more focused on what I'm doing in the community. So I'll show up, I'll do it. Like, fucking whatever. It's no skin off my nose. I'm not, like, supporting the system by doing it. But as an anarchist, as an Indigenous woman, I'm also like, that is so the bottom of the barrel as far as things you can do. I think half the time when people have these discussions about voting in the community, half the time it frustrates me because not voting for a lot of these people is as symbolic as voting is for most other people. And it's just like, at least think through your decision first before you just decide this thing and then, you know what I mean? Like, I completely 100% agree with the people who think about it, reason on it, and choose not to vote. I'm like, yep, I get it. I'm with you. My anarchist side of me, my Indigenous side of me, yes. As the people who are just like, oh, fuck it, and they show up and donkey vote. And I'm like, you're not doing anything with that. Like, at least think about it. Think about what you're trying to do by not voting, and then do that thing. you know, like engage,
Exactly.
engage.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
In 1934, the voting age was lowered from 21 to 18, and the ACT and Northern Territory were given representation in both houses of Parliament for the very first time.
Woo!
In 1984, under Bob Hawke, a whole mess of shit happened. So I'm going to try and rapid fire this, and I'm only going to do the highlights. Okay?
Yeah.
The AEC, the Australian Electoral Commission, was established to administer elections. Political party registration was introduced in order to permit the printing of party names on ballots. Public funding of election campaigns and disclosure of political donations was introduced. Compulsory enrolment and voting was finally extended to include Indigenous Australians. It took until 3 years before I was born. Just what the fuck, Australia?
Yeah.
So, like, literally 40 years ago, this happened.
I was going to say, technically my mother's still not enrolled because she never bothered.
Yep.
And because she's Indigenous, she never had to.
Yeah. And meanwhile, in saying this, any British subjects who had not taken citizenship of Australia, who were on the electoral rolls prior to 1984, retained full enrolment and voting rights without ever becoming an Australian citizen. There are a few more amendments that come after these, including increasing the per candidate deposit from $1,000 to $1,000 and $2,000, I should say, for the lower house and upper house nominations, respectively, which does get refunded if the party,
Gets enough
if the candidate,
votes.
I should say, achieve at least 4% of the primary vote, which
Yeah.
is also the threshold for public election funding. Hence
Yeah.
why it's so important to vote number one for any minor party that you align with.
Phew.
For Bulbasaur.
Bulbasaur.
Vote for Bulbasaur.
Vote one
because if he
Bulbasaur.
gets 4% of the votes, not only does he get his registration money back, but he gets public funding on the next election campaign and can run a more effective campaign.
And he'll be your number one cone to date. I need my ice cream cone. Cone to date. Yeah.
Exactly. Let me see here. And they also increased the membership requirements for a party to register from
Yeah.
500 members to 1,500 members, supposedly in order to curb an ever-growing list of parties that were clogging up election papers. Another change happened in 2021 was that political parties could not have names too similar to parties that had registered before them to avoid muddying the waters around who a voter is actually voting for. This also included logo designs that were too similar to other parties. So
Yeah.
there was a couple of situations where political parties had to change their name or their
Yeah.
logo because they were confusing the voting populace as
Yeah.
to exactly which party they were voting for.
Yeah. So which is why now if you register as a party, the AEC oversees all this obviously, but now when you register, you have to submit all of that to the AEC when you register and they'll either say
Yes.
yay or nay. So
Yep.
yeah, it's why we didn't bother register. Well, it's why we haven't yet. Once we've got the not-for-profit up and running, we will register as a political party, but we've got to get the important stuff sorted out first.
Exactly. Now,
Yeah.
a little bit more before we finish, because we're almost done. A little bit more before we finish. Talking about Western Australia now. We touched on it briefly before, but Western Australia retained what was called a significant malapportionment in the Legislative Assembly until 2008. Now, for clarity, malapportionment is when votes of a certain area are worth more than votes of another.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that we had all of these various seats,
Yeah.
there were different amounts of population that lived within those seats. And there was a significant margin of error for keeping those seats as narrow as possible so that there wasn't that big of a difference. And
Yeah.
at some points, it got so bad that votes in the country could be worth up to 4 times more than a vote in Perth because there
Yeah.
was less people in that area to actually elect their representatives.
Yeah.
So they had a more direct impact on the voting by casting their vote.
this process, just because it's a funny story, and I'm just going to chuck it in there as a little aside, just don't lose your train of thought, because this is going to be completely nothing to do with any of this.
Yep.
But the process of changing these boundaries to try and keep them all like within the certain margins, right? This is a process you probably heard of before. In the US system, it's known as gerrymandering. Now, the reason it's called that in the US... Do you know this story, Maddie, already? Have I told you this already?
I do, but I can't wait to hear you tell it because it's so fucking great.
I love this fucking story. I tell this story all the time whenever this topic of conversation comes up. I love it so
Yep.
fucking much. So in the press at the time, when they were talking about when all of this was happening back in the 1800s, and they were, or 1700s even, they were laughing about the shapes of some of these boundaries of these electorates. And the worst one was, the poor guy's name was Gary, actually. It wasn't even Jerry, It was Gary. But now it's known as gerrymandering, doesn't matter. But they said that his boundaries look like a salamander. And then everyone goes, it's not a salamander, it's a Gary. And then it became gerrymandering because of a slang term, because of the shape of his district in Massachusetts back in the 17 fucking hundreds.
His district looked like a salamander. His name was Gary. It became a gerrymander. And then as history went through, it changed to gerrymander. And that was what it was called in honour of the salamander-shaped district of Massachusetts. Just looking at that message from Maddie there. Good news from Gaza. My friend Gada returned to the north after 483 days of displacement. Her home was still there. That's fucking incredible. That's so incredible. Good
I live in Massachusetts. There you go. Funny bit of hometown trivia for you.
Oh, look at that. We shout out your home state. Look at that.
Yay. Oh, that's such good news, though. Amazing.
Yeah,
amazing,
that is
amazing,
incredible
amazing.
news. Very happy to hear it. Send our best. From the two girls in a garbage can.
Yeah. And all of the people in the garbage can with us here.
And everybody else, all of our trash pandas.
On behalf of all of our trash pandas,
So on the 20th of May 2005, the state parliament passed new electoral laws, removing the malapportionment with effect from the following election. Under the new law, electorates must have a population of at least 21,343, with a permitted variation of up to 10%. Electorates with a land area of more than 100,000 kilometres, 39,000 square miles for our American friends, are permitted to have a variation of up to 20%, in recognition of the difficulty of representing the sparsely populated north and east of the state. Large districts would be attributed an extra number of notional votes, I should say, equal to 1.5% the area of the district in square kilometres. For the purposes of the calculation, the large district allowance permitted, I should say, large rural districts to have a lot fewer voters than the average district enrolment. The Office of the Electoral Distribution Commissioners gave the following example, saying that Central Kimberley-Pilbara District has 12,601 electors and an area of 600,038 square kilometres. The average district enrolment for WA was 21,343. Central Kimberley-Pilbara thus obtains 9,000 notional extra electors, bringing its notional total to 21,601, which is acceptably close to the average district enrolment.
Yeah.
So it's basically...
This only applies to like 3 districts, though. So we're not talking about a lot of extra benefits coming to WA. We're talking about one place up north, one sort of centrally, and the one that I'm in down here, O'Connor. There's like 3 districts.
It wasn't even benefits coming to WA. It was benefits going to the regions in comparison to the metropolitan.
Which are in WA.
Which are in WA. So it wasn't coming to, it was within.
Yeah.
It's not like this is a benefit compared to other states.
No. But this is also why we have so many issues around things like GST, for example, in Western Australia, because a lot of the payouts for taxes like goods and services tax, a lot of the ways that they are spent are based on per capita spending. So we have to pay a lot more because of the businesses and the resources and the things that happen in Western Australia.
And the distance.
A lot more of our money goes over east to these, sort of goods and services tax, which already a goods and services tax is a tax on poor people. It's on the poorest of the poor, rather than an income tax or a wealth tax, which is on the wealthier people. But anyway, a progressive wealth tax, progressive income tax and progressive wealth tax. Anywho, so this is why there's all off. This comes up in conversation a lot when you talk about the anger in WA about all of the money that goes over east, because then whenever that money gets spent back on things like schools, it's based on per head per capita, and so we don't get anywhere near as much money, so we can barely afford to keep the lights on at some of our regional schools, whereas in Melbourne it's like every school's got a fucking music amphitheatre in it, and we like
Yep.
I mean, I'm not talking about, I know that, people will sit there and go, oh yeah, schools and stuff, it's hard over here as well. I get it. But I'm talking about the fact that there are, in a large portion of country schools in Western Australia, we just don't offer year 11 and 12. We call it
correct.
senior high school so that we don't have to offer it. You only have to offer it up until year 10. And because the schools don't get enough funding, they just don't teach those classes. And you literally have to send your kid away if they want to keep going with their education after year 10, even though everywhere else in the fucking country has access to year 11 and 12.
Yep.
So it's
I
a
got moved out
huge
to the
difference.
wheat belt. I got moved out to the wheat belt at the end of
Just-
year 11.
Just north of me.
And I did not get to finish my TEE because there was nowhere within 100 kilometres of me that offered year 12.
Yep. Yep.
So it was impossible for me to go to school. There was no school close enough for me to catch a bus. And my mum worked too early, too close to school time to have taken me. So
And
I
even
was
things
screwed. I
like
just didn't get
boarding
to finish my
away
education.
adds a huge extra cost, because there is like funding and stuff for boarding away, but
Yeah.
there's a heap of additional costs with boarding away that you don't have when you're feeding your kid at home every night, like taking care of them yourself at home every night. So there's this whole additional barrier, and the regions are trying to do a lot more to try and encourage these kids to do higher education. But again, the problem is that so many of these taxes that then get taken over, over to the federal taxes, then get spent out on these federal programs that are based on how many kids you have at a school. And it's like, we have a school a few hours away from me that has 4 students.
Yep.
How are you going to tell me that we're going to fund a music program for every school based on how many students? Even if every single one of the kids, even if 100% of the students at that school want to attend music, you are not going to have enough funding to have a music teacher at the fucking school.
Correct.
And then what if 2 of the kids want to do piano and the other 2 want to do fucking guitar?
Yep. Exactly. No, you're so right. You're so right. Maddie, I thankfully don't need to do it online because I've completed tertiary education courses. I was able to go in as a mature age student and basically skip the requirement for having completed my TEE. So
And until
it doesn't
Starlink,
really affect me.
a lot of these places didn't have, like, there's a place actually up the road from me. We drove through it, Belle, on the way to driving you back up to Perth. There's a place less than 2 hours away from me that you don't get cell service, you don't get phone service. Before Starlink came along, it was impossible to get the internet out there. No one had the internet out there. They would literally have to come 2 hours into town where I am, like,
To access the fucking emails.
to access the fucking internet. And that is the problem with a lot of this country out there, because Abbott actually did talk about in 2013, I think it was, he talked about, we've got to close down these regional communities. We can't keep providing services to them. What annoyed the shit out of me was that so many people who live in these regional communities were shoved out there after all of the land in these cities had been taken off of them, because that's where they lived. They all got shoved out to these regional towns where no services were connected. We were like, well, they don't really need them out there because they're not doing anything out there in the middle of fucking nowhere, so we're not going to bother connecting any services. And then they go, we're just going to shut down the fucking town because, like, it's too hard to connect services out there. Why are you all living out there anyway?
And yet, in the very next breath, they will say to people who can't find work in the city, move out to the country.
Move out to the regions.
There's plenty of work out there. Go pick fruit. Go help with crop harvest. Go help with shearing sheep. And it's like, well, actually, having lived in the country, you fucking city-bound asshole who has zero idea what it's like out there, the rents are more expensive because there's less fucking houses and they're all owned by the same goddamn farming family, so he can charge whatever the fuck he wants for them.
Yeah.
There's
The last house that I rented in town, because you get the name of your owner of the house. You don't get any other details, but you get their name. The name, my landlord's name is the name that is on, like, it's called, his surname was Colgat, not Colgate, Colgat, and double T, so it's definitely Colgat. And the surname, there's Colgat Cottage in town, is the, like, historic cottage in town.
Yep.
So people sit there and they go, it was 200 years ago. And I'm like, then why is the name on my lease the same as the name on all the historic buildings in town.
Yep, exactly.
If it was so long ago that it doesn't make a difference, why does it seem to be making a real difference to Mr. Colgat?
Yeah, right. Where the fuck was I?
Sorry, distraction.
No, you're good. You're good. It happens all the time.
Distraction.
I'm getting better at managing it. So, a modified form of malapportionment was, however, retained for the Legislative Council, the state's upper house. Rural areas were still overrepresented, with as much as 6 times the voting power of the Perth Metro region on paper. According to Anthony Green, who's pretty much a gun election analyst. He's
Anthony
pretty
Green
much
said my name
the
and I nearly
source that you
died.
turn to.
Do you know what he
Yeah.
said, though? He mispronounced my name and he said, sorry, I didn't practice that one. I didn't think I'd be saying it tonight. And I was like... He was quite
Which
surprised
means
by
you
my
gave
result.
him a nice surprise.
I did. He actually called it. He said he saw the Greens result coming in and he called it for Katrina Stratton. And it's the first time I've seen him do this. He then stepped it back because he said, wait, we'll see if I'm basing that on the Greens result. I'm going to have to wait and see if it holds up because the Greens don't tend to hold on to the vote when it goes down into Dalkeith and Nedland, the lower half. So that's just coming in from the seat. Like we can see those seats the votes have come in from the upper half. The Greens do tend to do pretty well up there. We have to see if that holds true when they go down into Dalkeith and Nedlands. When those results start coming in, then I'll be comfortable to call it for Dr. Katrina Stratton. And I was just like, we're going drinking before he says anything else. I don't want to know any other results tonight.
Absolutely. This is where we turn it off. He called it for me. I'm done.
I died happy. End of discussion. We move on now. It's fine. It's fine.
So yeah, Anthony Green said that the rural weighting, God, that's hard to say, rural weighting in the Legislative Council is still significant enough that a Liberal state premier has no choice but to include the National Party as part of his government, even if the Liberals theoretically had enough seats in the Legislative Assembly to govern alone. Because of how much the weighting was, I should say, weighted to the rural areas. Now, the situation remained in place until November 2021, when the Electoral Legislation Amendment, or Electoral Equality Bill, was passed, which replaced the malapportioned regions with a single statewide electorate of 37 members. Group voting tickets were also replaced by optional preferential voting, and the changes take effect from this year's state election.
Yes. Yeah. We discussed that earlier. Sorry.
Yes,
I
we
was
did.
like, wait, am I having deja vu or is this is what we were talking about earlier?
I was like, wait. Earlier. I was just looping back.
I have cancer brain, okay? Give me a break.
That's okay. That's okay. You don't have
I'm teasing myself.
You don't have to give any excuses, my love. I
had a moment.
Giving you passes for everything.
I had a fucking moment. I'm sitting there and I was going, wait, we were talking about the state election. Have we started talking about the federal election? Are we talking about something different now? Wait, have I lost track of the conversation?
Did I go to sleep at some point? What's happening?
Yeah, I was like, no, it's fine. It's okay. It's not that bad yet. Cancer card.
Cancer card. I'm going to make you one and mail it to you.
My nurse said, well, be careful of using the cancer card too frequently and too, too liberally. And I said, fuck off, it's cancer. I'll use it every chance I get. Anyone who says anything, I'm going to go, bitch, it's cancer. Like, this is not a cold. Go fuck yourself.
I'm just going to send you, this really beautifully made business card, okay?
Yeah.
That has the word cancer in ultra bold font on one side and a picture of a crab with a tumour growing out of its shell on the other. And I'm just going to send that to you.
My cancer card.
Whenever anybody says anything that you don't like, just hold either side of the card up.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Just,
even with my cups of tea and stuff, I'm like, Adam says, because he's we bumped into one of the people that he used to work with back in the day. Mm-hmm. And we were chatting about this, and I said, I made the joke that I just basically just brought up a conversation that his job now was just to take care of me, and we were actually, he's literally going to be my carer. So, and she sort of laughed and said, bet you it's really hard to get him to do anything. And I said, no, actually, because she made some comment only when people are watching And I said, no, I've got cups
Yep.
of tea on tap. Anytime he says anything, I'm just like, mate, I've got breast cancer. Like, go and make me a fucking cup of tea. And she sort of laughed. And then I walked away. I didn't realise that she didn't, like, she thought I was joking.
Uh-huh.
And then afterwards, when I, like, she said to him, so, like, what are you doing? Like, are you looking for work? And I'd walked away to go look at something. And he goes, no, I am actually taking time off because Tam's got to go through chemo, and like she's got chemo coming up starting next week, and like started going through it all. Speaking of which, I'm actually like starting to melt inside this outfit. I really do have to go get stripped, but I'll do that in a second. And I forgot what I was saying. Oh, that's right. And then I came back to the conversation, and she was like, okay, no, I actually love this. I can't believe, because when we worked together, every time I'd get up to do anything, Adam would just be like, oh, can you just do this for me? Oh, can you do that for me? Like, he was like, he treated me like his little bitch. So the fact that he is literally now your little bitch, and you can literally just be like, I have cancer, fucking do as you're told. I love it. This is my favourite thing I've heard all week.
It's kind of excellent, not going to lie.
And then I made the joke. I was like, finding out that I have cancer is your favourite thing about this week? And she went, well, no. And I was like, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Just
get him. Fucking get him.
I love just the fact that I'm allowed to say whatever I want and do whatever I want, and everyone just has to.
Belle is encouraging you to strip.
Strip. Yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
Well, as a matter of fact, given that you are now rapidly overheating and need to go and get changed, I'm actually done with all of the information that I was going to give out today. So I'm going to wrap up the episode by saying thank you so much for joining us for this week's dive into the depths of the trash fire that is Australian politics. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, make sure to drop us a follow and do all the usual engagement things to help us get the word out there. You can find Tamara and myself on the social media links in the description below, but for now, it's garbage day, so the girls got to take the trash out. Bye.
Bye.
And
play the
that's us.
outro. Yeah. Aha.
Okay, guys.
Take it off.
All right, guys. Love you all very, very much. Thank you for joining us for another stream. It's always great to have you guys here. Unsure currently of what's going to be happening with streams in the future.
No, I'm not.
We will try to
I
let
don't know
you
what
guys
Maddie's
know.
doing, but next week I've got what do you call it? Next week we've got Ivan is hopefully going to be joining us for a live stream, which is going to be amazing. Yes.
Oh no
shit!
That'll be dope.
I know. See, this is the thing. Always here every Monday without fail. So here's the thing. I have already planned ahead, Maddie. I'm like so far ahead on the 8 ball. I'm like, true. Okay. So next week, rather than me doing one, I've got Ivan doing one.
Cool. And we're just going to be his backup dancers, hey?
Oh, yeah, it's going to, like, entertain us with stories of, like, the bullshittery that, you know... Because I feel like there's always a different perspective that America has about Australia than what Australia has about America.
Yes.
And I'm always interested to hear what that particular perspective might be. So just trying to figure out what the best time we might have to stream a little bit earlier just because of the 13-hour time difference.
I'm cool with that. I am back home from dropping Willow off at work at approximately 8:45 in the morning. So I'm free to go anytime from then.
I was going to say, even if it's like one of those random things where, like, you know, I start and we do our banter and then you jump on and we just jump straight into the episode or whatever. Like, you know, it's we can work out whatever the timing is around what fits. I've got my kids on the bus now, so I literally don't have to leave my house at all, ever, for anything.
Dope.
That was also on purpose because I have chemo starting next week.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, that is everything for this week. Thank you for joining us. I hope you learned something. Once this episode is cut together, or if you find anything that you wanted to clip out of the episode, out of the recordings on either of our Twitch channels, please feel free and share it around. Particularly stuff about how voting works in Australia, because people need to know that we aren't a first past the post country.
And don't forget, I have an entire playlist of like 1-minute explainers on how to vote on TikTok already there. So even if you just want to send one to someone who you don't want to mention Lib, Labor or the Greens because you don't want them being turned off by it, I remember I kept it neutral for exactly that reason, so that it would just be an easily shareable, singular, non-partisan
Yeah.
explainer.
Good work.
So yeah, it's like 4 years old now, so I might actually have to update it.
That's all right. I was actually thinking of doing one myself, so
Yeah,
I'm happy to blast out the update.
yeah.
I'm not as pretty as you, but I can talk good.
There's actually a group that have started that have. I'll have to send out the link to house you as well. Hang on, give me 1 sec. I'll be right back. Hang on a sec.
Please do. Yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble on for an hour and a half about the way the Australian electoral system works. As I said, I do hope that you guys learned something about it. And if you didn't learn anything, then I hope you at least enjoyed your time with us. It is distinctly possible that you didn't learn anything. You guys who watch the stream, you're all pretty onto it. So I'm quite likely that most weeks I'm not actually telling you anything that you didn't already know. So yeah. Nowhere I'd rather be, to be honest. Oh, sweetheart. That's... You guys are so lovely. I've been holding back the teary things pretty much all episode, so don't say too many nice things, otherwise I will actually cry. Don't do that to me. You don't want to see me crying on the big TV, babes. You! Welcome back. Well informed and unenthusiastic about the information presented. Why can't we have a cool solar punk future? Agreed. Agreed. Where is my solar punk utopia?
Why can't we have a cool solar punk future? We can. We're creating one at the commune, Zach. That's the whole point of the commune, is to have a cool solar punk. Sorry, I was literally melting. I couldn't take it anymore, and I went and got my water as well because I was just like,
No, I know. I too am melting right now, and I have a half a temptation just to lower my chair and just take my shirt off and just sit here without the shirt on.
I was going to say, you can turn your camera off now. We're finished recording. You don't have to have your camera on.
I know, but like, hang on. There we go. Problem solved. Let me see. Is that going to be... Yep. Beautiful.
Let's get the titties out, girls. I got side boob. I got massive side boob. Woo. My side boob is so tiny. Can I just tell you, I've never been more... Okay. I've never felt more called out than when I was sitting in the doctor's office and he turns to me and he goes, breast conserving surgery isn't really an option because of the percentage of the breast that is taken up by the tumour. And I was like, it's quite a small tumour. It's less than, it's 18 mils. And he said, yes. And you have very small breasts. So...
my love, honestly, I don't mean to pile on, but I'd say we probably have equivalent titty.
Not for long.
Yeah, not for long. You're gonna be living the dream that I wish I could.
Too damn hot. Wasn't there a show called Naked News? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Naked News.
This is what my OnlyFans is going to be. Just me talking shit about
politics while
politics
naked.
While I take my shit off.
I might not tell everyone that I had a double mastectomy and then advertise an OnlyFans where I talk politics shirtless and then charge people to watch me talk politics shirtless with no tits.
Yes. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Literally, there's not much to them and they're dead, so they all got to go. It's all going. Everything. It's 100% clear. Also, I would watch.
Yeah, fucking same, bro. Same as hell. I don't give a shit. It's still hot.
I think there'd be a lot of people who would just tune in just for the humour of it, to sign up to watch someone read the news 100%. Topless and then have it be a chick who's had a double mastectomy.
Braff. You can.
I can booby dance. Oh yeah, I love I had a friend who used to be able to swing her tassels. either way. She could swing them either way, left or right. She
Nice.
loved it to death. Loved it to death. Worked it with her doing bar work, and she was also a sex worker and a dancer. And I was chatting with her about like doing topless waitressing and stuff. And she looked at me and she sort of went, "You haven't tried that recently, though?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, didn't think so." I was like, "Oh, bitch."
There's
like,
there's a
"No,
lot
no."
of people making some big claims in chat, and I'm going to need some video proof.
Start OnlyFans and call it titties and politics. Yeah. Well, that's how we started this show. I said, "How is Trump like a tumor?
Yeah, right?
How is fascism like cancer?"
Yep.
So it really does feel quite, yeah,
Yeah, full circle moment.
full circle. Yeah. Topless waiting. Yeah.
Yep.
Yup. No, topless waiting is you can get some good money doing it, that's for sure, but it's definitely not for everybody, and it's definitely not for me these days. I've had children. I'm a little bit looser everywhere than I used to be.
Doesn't matter.
Oh,
There's an audience for everything, hun. Lily,
yeah, no, this
absolutely.
was the kind of places in places in like regional towns, yeah, they, no worries, they'll snap you up, no problems. If in the cities and stuff, they're a little bit more circumspect, so you have a little bit of a harder time of it, but
Ish.
there's more
Ish.
demand for it in the country because they have more places that do it, so either way I'm
Yeah.
like, I win, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Lily, definitely. Also, if you can find it, get a cheap like bikini thing for it as well, because that'll work. Zab, that's a really fucking good rate, mate. And I wish that my body had have been built better, because that's the sort of thing I was doing full service.
Woohoo! Love how many of my friends have worked in sex work. It's like my favorite thing about our community.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, what a shock. We're all radical. Everyone's been
Oh, yeah,
exploited
God,
by
yeah.
the system before in a multitude of different ways. Who would have thunk that we'd all have similar political views?
No way.
What a shock. Um, so, you know how I made my video a little while ago talking about, I forgot what we were talking about before I got up and got changed. What were we talking about?
I don't remember either.
Probably
Because
have
you
to do a
came back
code
and
and it will
gave
bring me
everyone a
back.
little bit of side boob, and it was like, oh, okay, cool. My brain's empty now.
Magic. Enjoy them while they're here. They won't be for much longer.
Show them off while you got them,
Um,
babes.
Can't remember.
Going back,
So,
because it's literally my only hope. Yeah, I feel ya. That's kind of why I'm going back too, Lily.
oh, it is
Things are
funny.
getting bad, and
They
I
are.
need money.
I do think that the internet does make it a little bit more. These days, it's sort of, you've got more options for it to be a little bit more, you to be a little bit more control, like you're a little bit
Yeah,
more
absolutely.
in charge for yourself now, so it can be a little
Mhm.
bit less exploitative than what, especially
I
with the way
was,
that topless waitressing works. It's so fucking bullshit.
yeah. Look, I was very lucky when I was doing full service work, because I worked for myself, because there wasn't a lot of masks providing the services that I was providing at the time. And because of my connections, I had a lot of hooks into places that don't normally come across those sort of services. So I
Right.
tended to deal with the higher end of town, femmes in big business positions who were in shit marriages and hadn't had an orgasm in 8 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they either wanted to give up the control that they had to have because they were surrounded by fucking dudes all day, and they had to shout and be hella assertive just to have their voice heard. So they wanted to just have a moment where they weren't in control of something, or they wanted to find a guy that they could fucking bully and treat the way they wish they could treat the men on the board. And that was what I did. To be
I
honest,
think
I'm just glad it's not cervical cancer, and even though I'll probably never see it, according to Tamara, her lower extremities are the ones designed by ladies of the night, and it would be a crime to damage that art. Wow. That's a sentence.
yeah, it is true. I do have a porn star vagina. Just saying.
Really?
It's yeah. So this isn't like this is so there's actually a porn star vagina is a thing. Like it's actually a thing. So most yeah. I know.
I'm listening.
Most
You've got my
vulvas.
attention.
Yeah. So most people have the labia majora and the labia minora. Okay. I used to be like, I didn't realize. I was like looking at it with a mirror, going, "Wait, is that bit the labia minora? Like what?" So there's the labia minora is the like you've got the bits that sort of hang out like the oyster. You know, a lot of porn stars will get those lasered off
Yes.
to
Surgically
keep
removed.
everything tucked away. Yeah, I didn't realize I was born
Vaginoplasty.
without them.
Yeah. Or very
I-
small. They will be there. It's just they're so small that they're kind of tucked inside.
No, they're not. They're not there at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, no, they're not there at all. They literally don't. They're not just tucked inside. They are non-existent. I would be looking, going, where is this thing that people keep talking about? And yeah, gynecologist was like, no, they don't, not there, nowhere to be seen. But you should feel lucky because a lot of women get those lasered off.
And look,
It's why I get a lot of UTIs. I get a lot of UTIs.
yeah. Look, and it's something I'll never understand, right? Like, I don't understand it. Again, with my line of work when I was younger, I have seen every variation of the adult female human body that you could possibly think exists. Every shape, every size, every fucking, you name it, I've seen it. Right?
Yeah.
And none of it is bad, guys.
No, absolutely not.
None of it.
I was going to say, I was like, there's something wrong with me because every person I've ever gone down on has got this thing that I don't have. Like, I'm the weird one.
Yeah.
And it was actually my sister. I was talking to my sister about it because she was giving me a wax one day. And I said to her, and she said to me, God, I forget. Every time I go to wax you, I forget that I'm just going to go like, hello, everything is just sitting right there.
Yeah.
And I said, it's not my fault. Like, I'm missing the bits. And she goes, yeah, I know, me too. And I said, really? She goes, yeah, you, me, and our other sister. None of us got it. And I went, really? She's like, yeah. And I said, oh, thank God. That makes me feel so much better about it. Because she was a beautician, so she'd used to waxing a whole lot. And she goes, every time I spread you open, I'm like, oh, God, that's right. I'm going to get the whole thing right in my face.
Yeah. I mean, I was also a body piercer.
Yeah.
Like, I have pierced half of this state's genitals.
Yeah.
I
honest to
wish I
God, that's
was
what my sister
joking.
says every time. She's like, it's like looking into the eye of Mordor. It's like most people it all looks fairly like it's together and like people think that it's not neat and tidy until you've seen a million of them, and then you're like, the ones that don't have the bits, they're the shocking ones. They're the ones that you go, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, again, like, and this is the thing, like,
The whispering eye.
your particular anatomy precludes you from getting certain piercings that other women can get.
Yeah.
You know,
And
like,
I'm more at risk, and I get UTIs all the fucking time, and
Yeah.
I've had 2 kidney infections in my life, which most women don't have to deal with that many kidney infections because they don't get like horrendous UTIs constantly. I never don't have a UTI because I don't have the menorah.
Yep.
I have majora with no menorah. No.
Oh my God. This conversation got off track.
Yeah. But it's like, imagine having a non-circumcised penis just from birth. It reduces
You mean a
sensitivity as
circumcised
well.
penis from birth?
Oh yeah, sorry. Imagine having a circumcised penis from birth. It also like reduces sensitivity and
Yeah.
like
Yeah, of course. Because there's
you know,
no
it's not a
protection.
good. I mean, like I'm sure everyone likes the look of it, but it's not like. And I'm sure again, porn stars who have to have sex all day probably are glad that they don't have as much sensitivity.
Yeah, as much friction as well.
I'd be happy to have a little bit, you know, just it's hilarious though how often there's not all downsides. It's amazing how often I can just be sitting there rocking backward and forward doing my stimming and I'm like, oh, hang on a second.
If I do this for just a couple seconds longer.
Just a moment. Yay! Looks pretty, but it's useless. Exactly.
Yeah.
Except again, if you want to sneakily get off while just sliding
That's
backward and forward.
that's
Jeez.
what I say about myself, Zab Zab. Looks pretty
Yeah.
but functionally useless.
Yep.
I am
Yes.
really falling like ass first into himbo life right now, hey. Like I am just going full head empty
Do
pretty boy
it.
himbo bullshit.
Do
Because
it.
well, I can't even say pretty boy anymore because that doesn't apply. Just pretty they, pretty
Pretty
them,
day
pretty it,
lifestyle. Trophy wife.
trophy it.
Trophy wife. You could be a trophy wife and be non-binary. Wife is a wife actually started as a term for a
Partner.
like not a person. It was
Yeah.
a utensil.
Yeah.
Housewife was a utensil before
With.
it was a person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could be a housewife. That's fine.
I technically am a trophy wife right now.
Yeah.
And Belle, beg to differ. Beg to differ. Peens aren't all ugly things.
Proof I'm gay, right there. Disagree, hard disagree. I'm on Belle's side here. The peen is an
Hey man,
ugly fucking thing.
hey. I took the time to decorate mine with a hell of a lot of metal. It is gorgeous. Don't start on
Look,
me.
I'm sure I've just met so many people who are really proud of it, and every single one of them, I'm like, I don't. It's this. I. To me, it's like looking at toes.
Hey, fair enough, man. Fair enough. If it's not your thing, it's not
It's a
your thing,
weird toe.
right?
So
If
that's an odd
if
shaped
it's not your
toe.
thing, it's not your thing.
Is there a reason you got that out of your pants? Oh, you want me to do something with it now? Okay, I guess.
Oh shit. Look,
House
fair enough.
spouse. So
House
proud.
spouse. That's so much better. I'm using that.
House spouse. I like it.
I'm using that.
I like it. We're going to, I have to, I was going to say, have to all be, we're going to all be house spouses on the commune. So
Yes.
that's the good thing. So there are a lot of, I've got to say, once we've got land secured, which is going to be the hardest thing, but once we've got land secured, it's very, very easy to keep things going. Just,
Yeah. Yep.
you know, so as much as it's like, oh, what's happening, I am going to say people start getting a move on with like getting policy sorted out and what programs you want to run and like looking at opportunities. If anyone has an idea of like a program that they want to do, start looking for opportunities for funding or ways that you might be able to get interest in it and whatever. And yeah, all that jazz. Because once we've got the land, we can pretty much just hit the ground running.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wife you all up. Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah. Fucking same, Lily. Like, I am willing to be like the communal partner.
Yeah.
No
Whoever
issues,
needs
man.
me.
Fucking sing out. You need something. You need something down off a high shelf or picked up and put on a high shelf. Call me. I'm fucking 6'4" and I'm just about to get myself a pair of 6-inch heels. So I'll be like almost 7 foot
100%.
tall.
I will be also around. I don't know how much capacity I'll have. One of the things that really, I'm not going to lie, I got really pissed off at, okay, is that chemo ages you roughly 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm going to be the same fucking physiological age as my mother, who never stops fucking whinging. Every time I spend 10 minutes with her, she starts fucking whinging. Like, Tara, you just don't understand. Like, you just don't understand. And I'm like, and I'm not telling her that I've got cancer. I'm never fucking telling
Yeah.
her. Like, she'll find out after I'm dead that I'm sick. End of discussion. So I'm going to have to put up with listening to her saying to me, oh, Tamara, you don't understand. You just don't understand. And I'll be sitting there going, bitch, my body is just as fucking old as yours. Shut the fuck up. Older, in fact. You were 19 when you had me, and I've just been aged 20 fucking years. So I'm older than you, physiologically. Shut the fuck up.
Yup.
Oh. Yeah.
Alrighty. Should we wrap it up there, my friend?
I'm kind of, I mean,
Or do you want to sit and keep bantering for a while until...
no, I shouldn't. I'm supposed to, I have to go and call the nurse, and I don't want to.
Yeah. Well, what I will say is if we wrap it up and you go make your phone call, I will be right there for you on Signal.
Alrighty. Sounds good.
If you need a yarn, all right?
Alright. Sounds good.
Okay. Cool.
Alright.
Alrighty then.
Love yous
Love
all.
you all again. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to entertain you
Yes.
all and talk shit about crappy politics in this country.
And we will definitely be back again next week, as I said, with some interesting, entertaining, who knows what. And also, is someone trying to raid, are they?
Who's trying to raid what?
Don't know. Someone's trying to raid on, I don't know how they're going to because we're not hooked up.
No, a good raid. Oh, no, we just end, mate, because we're streaming to 2 separate channels all
Yeah.
at once. So, yeah.
Well, 4,
Or 3,
actually.
technically. 4. Yeah, yeah, we're
2 of
streaming to
them-
4 different locations.
One of them's not live. One of them's like a what do you call
Recording
it?
device.
Yeah, one of them is for like for our Ko-fi members so they can watch ad free.
Yeah.
And the other 2 are our live Twitch videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of them's for our YouTube channel.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, the YouTube
All right,
channel's the
guys.
one that's for the guys to watch on, the Ko-fi guys
Yeah.
to watch on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Love you, love you, love you, love you, love you.
Love you.
Um,
Oh, here comes. All right, and we will see you soon.
Be well, everyone. Bye now.
All right, bye.